Right, so let's see if my mic works. Check 1, 2, 3. Check. Um, Audio test. Yep, it's working. All right, so yeah, let's begin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, brothers and sisters in Islam. Welcome to yet another official live stream. So this is my weekly live stream, my Q&A session where I invite people, regardless whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, you're most welcome to come onto my live stream and discuss anything under the sun with of course some limits. And yeah, this is the channel The Muslim Apologist, and I'm your host MENJ. Right, so it's 12:16 p.m. Malaysian time in the blazing afternoon, and it's Ramadan. Yeah, so I'm right now in the middle of my fast. It's the third day of Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, so far there has not been any problems with my Ramadan. Alhamdulillah. I hope that maybe if you do come online, then you could share your experience with Ramadan this year. How has it been for you? Because I'm aware, I'm pretty sure you are all aware that Ramadan changes according to the lunar month. So it changes every year, right? So sometimes it's in the middle of the year, sometimes it's towards the end of the year, sometimes it's at the beginning of the year. Like this year, I would say it's somewhat before the middle of the year, right? And last year it was pretty much in the middle because it was in I think it was in May or June, yeah, around that. So this year it has been a bit early, right? So it's in March this year, right? So or I would say early April. So in any case, yeah, welcome to my live stream. Right now there's nobody on the stream. I shouldn't be surprised because yeah, this has been quite the late announcement. Okay, so I'm hoping that there will be people coming on. Oh, I think a sister has arrived. Assalamualaikum, Sister Mona. Ramadan Mubarak to you. Okay, so the sister says Ramadan Mubarak. Hopefully you get some good guests today. It's 12:17 a.m. in New Jersey, United States. Yes, if it's 12:17 a.m. your time, here it's 12:17 p.m. my time. So it has just turned 12:18 p.m. my time, by the way. So we are exactly 12 hours apart. So in your place it's midnight, here it's midday, right? So as I expected, okay, because I know that in certain places in the United States it should be around midnight. Okay, of course there are some places which are you know pretty much after midnight, and there are some places which are a little bit before midnight as well, because I'm aware that in the US the time zones are varies from one place to another. It's very much unlike Malaysia, which is quite uniform. Okay, so yeah, right now there's 3 people watching this live stream. So if you want to come on, okay, give me a moment while I paste the link. Okay, I think I forgot to paste the link in YouTube. Very sorry about that, because I was supposed to start this live stream about 2 hours ago, but I had some things to do. Well, actually, I woke up late because after Fajr, I just fell asleep like a rock, and I fell asleep like a rock, and then I woke up around 11, right? So I just thought, all right, let's just push it to 12, and yeah, and here we are, right? So I'm going to put the link right now. Okay, let me mute myself on YouTube, and I'm going to post the link, and I'm going to pin the message. Yes, it's up. All right, so you should be able to see the link in the chat. All right, at the top of the chat. Okay, where are my nephews? Oh, they are not here. Okay, they are not here. They have not come this week, right? So my sister has not visited us today, so maybe she's busy. I think she's actually quite busy at the moment. She's doing some business deals. Yeah, she's I think she's involved in some crypto trading or something like that, but I'm not really sure. And frankly, I'm not really interested to know. Okay, so yeah, I think she's busy this week with her husband. So my nephews aren't here, and I get the room to myself. I'm actually a bit glad that they're not here, because if they were here, then they will make a mess out of my room. Okay, and I want some peace and quiet this week, right? So I couldn't do any reading last week because my nephews were here. So I ended up having to spend more time with them, okay, than I do with myself. Okay, right. Okay, that's a very good question here. Sister and Mona asks, brother, most Javanese Muslim, okay, you need to understand that Javanese is a race, all right? So Javanese are peoples, the indigenous peoples who live on the island of Java in Indonesia, in what we know now is Indonesia, okay? And the current capital of Indonesia, Jakarta, is on this island as well, right? So with regards to the Javanese is spread out throughout the region, okay, the Southeast Asian region, okay. Well, specifically Malaysia, Singapore, in Indonesia, okay. Of course, the most concentration of Javanese are on the island itself. But for Javanese whose ancestors have left the island long time ago, the further they go, they move away from the island, the more they lose their language. Like for me, for example, I don't speak Javanese anymore because I've lost it. The further away you move from Java Island, the more you lose your cultural links to the island. Even though you may be aware of your cultural, so your historical or your ancestral ties to the island, um, you probably wouldn't have even a bit. You wouldn't even have any shred of any cultural connection to the island itself, right? In terms of language, in terms of culture. So okay, so you have to understand this context first. So in Malaysia, the Javanese or basically those whose ancestors hail from the island of Java, they are pretty much assimilated into the Malay culture, the Malays in Malaysia. So most Javanese in Malaysia, with the exception of a few people like me, for example, have regarded themselves to be Malays, and they don't even acknowledge themselves to be Javanese. So those so-called Malays or Javanese those people who have ancestral roots to Java, to the Java island, but have not regarded themselves as Javanese anymore, even though they still have ties with Java in terms of ancestry. These people are mostly Muslims, right? Majority of them are Muslims, inshallah. On Java island itself, okay, the Javanese people on Java island itself, well, that's a different story. Okay, so there are Javanese Muslims, but there are also Javanese Christians, and there are Javanese Hindus. Okay, there are Javanese pagans as well. So there's so many Javanese on the island of Java. You need to keep in mind that on Java island there's about I think there's 100 million people. I don't know. You need to look up the stats. Let me look up the stats now. What's the population of Java island? I need to Google this. I need to check my facts. 145 million as at 2015, at the year 2015, right? 2015, sorry. So the population of Java, Java Island, is 145 million. So out of this 145 million, not all of them, of course, a majority of them are Muslims, but not all of them are Muslims. Okay, so I would say yeah, most Javanese are Muslim, but it's a mix. Okay, it's a mix, and Javanese is a race. Okay, it's a race. Keep that in mind, right? It's a specific race. Let me share with you the Java Island details. Okay, right here you are. So yeah, this is Java. Yeah, so my ancestors come from this island. Somewhere I would say so let me see. Okay, you have to keep in mind that Java Island is very huge. It's split into two, right? Sorry, it's split into three central areas. So this is West Java, this is Central Java, and this is East Java. Okay. So East Java is where most of the Hindus are, right? So because it's near to Bali. Okay, you have to keep in mind it's near Bali. So Bali is the center for Hinduism in Indonesia today. I mean, there's a concentration of Hindus in Bali. Balinese, by the way, are not Javanese. Okay, Balinese are not Javanese, but the influence from Java, because you have to keep in mind before Islam came to the region, the whole island of Java were Hindus. Okay, so that influence, that particular region came to Bali, and the Balinese became Hindus, most of them. Okay, so but after Islam came, ironically, most of the island became Muslim, but Bali remained Hindu for the rest of its for the rest of the time. Okay, of course, right now in Bali there are Muslims in Bali, but they are not indigenous Balinese. Okay, they are those who come from Java, or come from Sumatra, or come from other parts of Indonesia, who come to Bali to work. Okay, so there is a Muslim population in Bali, but they're not indigenous Balinese. Okay, so to keep in mind, Balinese are not Javanese, Javanese are not Balinese. Okay, Indonesia is such a diverse country with so many languages and cultures. It's pretty much like India. All right, let's look at it this way. Indonesia is like India. There's so many races, there's so many religions, there's so many languages. Okay, of course, Islam is the majority religion, but because of the Dutch occupation, there is Christianity, there is Hinduism, there is Buddhism because of some migration from the Chinese who came to the region way back in the early 1900s. So yeah, so this is the history of Indonesia, right? Yeah. By the way, I'm not an Indonesian. I'm just telling. I'm just someone whose ancestry came from Java. I am a Malaysian, so there's a difference. Sometimes I find that people do confuse. Those who come from Indonesia with those who come from Malaysia. So Malaysia is a separate country. Indonesia is a separate country. It's like India and Pakistan. If you are from Pakistan and someone calls you an Indian, wouldn't you get offended? You see? Or if you are an Indian and someone calls you Pakistani, wouldn't you get offended? Right? So I know that nationalism is, of course, forbidden in Islam. I mean, in terms of uh, patriotism, and in the sense of where you belong, then it wouldn't be accurate to call you Pakistani or Indian if you are not from these regions. Okay, same likewise for me. If someone calls me Indonesian, I will get offended because I'm not from Indonesia. Why would you want to call me an Indonesian? I'm a Malaysian. I'm a proud Malaysian. Okay. Yes, I mean in terms of patriotism. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I don't endorse, or I abhor nationalism. It's just that in terms of location wise, you have to be accurate in your information. Okay. Any connection to Java coffee? I think it does. I think Java is actually known for its coffee. Okay, let me check. I think it does. I think it does. Okay. Yes, that's right. Because coffee came from Java. Okay. Yes. All right. So I'm going to share with you. Here you go. Yep. Why is coffee called Java? Because coffee came from the island of Java. There you go. Yeah. As I guess Google pretty much confirms it. Okay. So Java comes from the island of Java. During the 1600s, the Dutch introduced coffee to Southeast Asia. They brought coffee trees to places like Bali and Sumatra, and I guess they planted them there, and then they cultivated them, and and then they export them back to Europe. Okay, so here you go. You can just Google it, I guess. Yep. So I guess that answers your question, right? So coffee did come from Java, right? Okay. We or Pakistani heritage gets offended when we are called Indian. Yes, exactly. Because you're not Indian, you're Pakistani. Okay, your heritage is Pakistani. Your sense of belonging, your patriotism. I'm not talking about nationalism. I'm talking about patriotism. Your sense of belonging and patriotism is to Pakistan. So why would you want to call yourself an Indian? Okay, unless if you are referring to pre-independence India story, right? So I mean pre-independence India and Pakistan, at a time when the whole Indian subcontinent was united, right? So Yeah, so I understand totally that feeling. Okay, yeah, but we have to keep in mind that nationalism is, of course, haram, and it's not part of Islam. Okay, I abhor nationalism. I don't like it at all. I think nationalism has brought a lot of destruction and pain to the Muslim Ummah, right? So, but nevertheless, we still are encouraged to have patriotism. So you have to distinguish the difference between patriotism and nationalism. Okay, there is a difference between the two, right? So, if you want to ask, you know, if you ask me where I'm from or what my origins are, I would say I'm an American born. Okay, I'm an American born. I am a Malaysian by citizenship. Okay, I am a Javanese by ethnicity, and I'm a Muslim by identity, first and foremost. Okay, so these are the things. And of course, if you want to be more specific about, the location where I'm from in Malaysia, then I would say Penang, right? Because I was raised in the northern state of Penang. Okay, the Penang Island, right? Just look it up, right? Yeah. So I think that pretty much clears up, my position on nationalism and patriotism, etc. Right. So yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm still waiting for anyone who wants to come onto the live stream to have a chat or to have a Q&A or whatever. Right. Right now we have about six people watching this live stream. It has been about 19 minutes right now. Mashallah. That's actually very good. Six people watching this live stream. Okay. Even though, I set this up, I just set this up about 15 minutes before it started. Right. So yeah. So if you want to join the live stream, please be welcome. You can even speak in Malay. If you don't feel comfortable speaking in English, you're most welcome to have a discourse with me in Malay, in the Malay language. All right. Unfortunately, I can't speak Mandarin very fluently at the moment, so I don't think I can handle a dialogue or a discourse in Mandarin. And unfortunately, I don't speak any other languages of the world, like Urdu or Spanish or Italian or French. So I don't have any other languages under my belt at the moment, except for uh, the Malay language and English, right? So, all right. I don't know. There's this weird question asking me about drugs. I don't take drugs. Okay. I hope that's clear to you. Okay. Drugs are haram. Okay. Right. Except for in the case of medication. Okay. Which I do take some medication at the moment for my gout. Okay. I think if anyone were to watch my previous live streams, they would know why I'm currently on medication. Right. Kale Octopus. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Please do come on the live stream if you wish to, have a chat with me, or if you want to ask questions, or you just want to have a dialogue or a discourse. Please, brother, you're most welcome. Right, brother. We need more guests on your show. Right? Yeah. I mean, I think it would be a slow day. I don't mind if there are no guests at all. I mean, you can just leave your comments on the chat as well. Why not? Right. If you feel shy, if you don't feel comfortable, coming on to the live stream, it's okay. You can just leave your comments in the chat as well, right? Dread Inside. Waalaikumsalam. Apa khabar? Saudara dari Johor. Kalau nak masuk dalam live stream, masuklah. Boleh cakap dalam bahasa Melayu. Nanti saya terjemahkan. So I just said salams to this brother from the southern state of Johor, and I've invited him to come onto the live stream, and I've said that if he wants to speak in Malay, he's most welcome to, and I will translate it for him, translate his speech for him into English for the benefit of those who do not speak the Malay language. All right. So okay, Kale Octopus asked a very good question here. Right. Can you explain more about Yahweh and how he became the God of the Jews? All right. So I've been reading this, right, from Dr. Francesca Strafrakopoulos. Okay, so on the issue of God in the Bible, which is actually Yahweh, YHWH, whatever that God means, right? So this book is actually about the anthropomorphic descriptions of God in the Bible, or Yahweh, YHWH, in the Bible specifically. Okay, and it's interesting because book actually differentiates between Elohim, which is the name for God in the Bible, with that of YHWH. Okay, Yahweh. Okay, I mean the Christians pronounce it as Yahweh, but even this book admits that no one knows how the pronunciation of the Tetragrammaton is. How do you pronounce the pronunciation? The how do you pronounce the Tetragrammaton? Okay, so even this book admits that the pronunciation of YHWH is very unclear. All right, so yeah, so you see, if you read, I mean, I have some other scholarly works, of course, which I've acquired over the years. I did not come to the conclusion that Yahweh is Satan in just a few seconds. All right, it took me a long time to finally come to this realization. Okay, so I've for those who may not already know, I actually bought some research works and archaeological research regarding the discovery at Kuntilat Ajrut. Okay, so let me share the screen. Okay, Kuntilat. So I need to share this because it's very important to the discussion here. Okay, all right. So yeah, I'm going to share the image of what they found at Kuntilat Ajrut. Okay, Kuntilat Ajrut is the name of a place, all right, in what we now know as Israel, unfortunately. Okay, so right, so this is the image that they found carved on the walls, okay, of Kuntilat Ajrut. Okay, and let me see now, drawn on the walls or carved. I'm not really sure. It could be. Sorry, it's not. No, sorry, it's not carved on the wall. It's painted on a jar. Okay, the jar was found at Kuntilat Ajrut. Yeah, sorry, my bad. So anyway, as you can see, there are 4 images here. So one of them is Yahweh. Okay, so this image here, if you see this guy here with the horns on his head, and oh, by the way, this is his thingy, right? Yeah, I know it's a bit disgusting, but yeah, this is his thingy. So the guy here is Yahweh. Is the representation of the Christians God, okay, which they call upon as Yahweh. All right. So to me, it is unacceptable. Okay, especially since if we read the 10 Commandments in the Bible, we know very well that God cannot be cannot be represented. He cannot be drawn. He cannot be. He's unlike anything that has been seen. Right. So I don't think the followers of Musa, the true followers of Musa alayhi salam, or basically the Banu Israel, the pious folk among the Banu Israel would draw or even consider conceiving an image of God of the Bible on in any form or any shape or any form whatsoever, right? So therefore my conclusion is that Yahweh cannot be the God of the Bible. Okay, because there you go, you can see his image here. He's drawn. Okay, how would we reconcile the commandment in the Bible which says that God, you shall not draw graven images of God, you shall not create anything, any idols or any shape of God, okay, with this jar, with this drawing of a jar, with this drawing on the jar featuring who else but Yahweh? Okay, so it is for I am very 200%, 3000%, 1000% confidently sure that this Yahweh, this being here, is not the God of the Bible. So this Yahweh here is Satan. Okay, because this image here clearly has horns on his head, and then he has a thingy, right? Okay, yeah, the thingy. Okay, and then next to him, next to this image here, to this guy here, to this dude here, there is a figure right behind this Yahweh, right? So this image behind him here is supposed to be a representation of his wife. Okay, it has a wife. Okay, so the question is, does the God of the Bible has a wife? Okay, would it be conceivable to claim that Musa alayhi salam taught his followers that the God, the one true God of Abraham, has a wife? that would be impossible, right? That would be totally unacceptable, especially even to let's put aside the Quran. I mean, we don't even have to wear the Muslim hat. Let's wear the Yahud hat, the Banu Israel hat. Would it be acceptable to any Yahud, to any Jew, to to receive the idea that this Yahweh, this being, this false satanic being, is the God of the Bible, when clearly, first of all, this being is depicted on a jar, drawn and engraved on a jar, even though the Bible forbids the engraving or drawing of any representation of God. That's number one. And number two, the being behind this, the being here, the figure behind this Yahweh, is his wife. Okay, it's supposed to be a representation of his wife called Asherah. Okay, and if you actually, I can't zoom. Unfortunately, I can't zoom the picture. Can I zoom the picture further? Okay, all right. If you can see at the top of his head, there's an inscription there, right? So the inscription is actually saying, um, I don't remember the translation of the inscription, but it says something along the lines of Yahweh and his Asherah. Okay, so um, so now the question is, if this being is clearly Yahweh, as indicated by the inscription, because this inscription clearly says that this being here, this horned being here with a thingy, okay, I don't even want to mention it because it's Ramadan, mashallah. And then next to him is this female companion by the name of Asherah. Okay, if this being is truly Yahweh, and then the next being next to it is also another goddess by the name of Asherah. Would you accept that idea that the Bible is teaching two gods as a Jew? If you are a Jew, would you believe that? Would you accept the idea that this Yahweh is the God of the Bible? If I were a Jew, I would say no. What the hell, man? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I've been taught all my life the 10 Commandments not to worship any other God except for the one true God, Adonai, Elohim, El Shaddai. And suddenly comes along this figure, okay, which claims to be Yahweh, and it has a wife, and it says that it has a partner basically, and that and that and that this is the God of the Bible, and Christians are saying that YHWH is pronounced as Yahweh, and therefore, what does that mean? Does that mean that this being is the God of the Bible? You see, do you see the theological implications for Christians, especially if they say that Yahweh is the true divine name for God? Do you see the problems associated with this? Okay, I mean, I find it disgusting. Honestly, as you know, okay, now I'm wearing the Muslim hat again. If I were wearing the Muslim hat again, I would immediately reject this. I'm not going to try to even rationalize, because there are some Muslim apologists who try to diffuse the allegation, because for those who are not aware, the Christians, they always come and say, oh, you Muslims don't know the name of the one true God, because in the Bible, God is known as YHWH, Yahweh, and in the Quran, there's no mention of the word Yahweh. So therefore, the God of the Quran is not Yahweh, and therefore Allah is a false God. And the one true God in the Bible, his true name is Yahweh. So why was the God of the Quran ignorant about the name YHWH or Yahweh, according to them? So my response to that is simply this: are you worshipping this horrible looking being with a horn head and with a thingy dangling between his legs? Are you worshipping this being, which obviously has a wife here with two titties? Okay, I'm sorry for having to use the word, but yeah, you can see there's two dots on his chest. Okay, it's a female being by the name of Asherah. Do you actually believe that God has taken upon itself a wife? Okay, na'uzubillah, I mean zalik, na'uzubillah. I mean, this is a very, very serious, allegation to make, right, against God. I mean, I will reject it. Okay, so Muslims, okay, my dear Muslim brothers and sisters, if you do come across a Christian who says, go off their rocker, and they say that you Muslims don't know the name of the one true God because you don't have the name Yahweh in in the Quran, just show them this image, all right? Just show them this image and ask them, is this the being that they worship? Okay, if they say no, then you tell them that according to this inscription, it says that this being's name is Yahweh. Okay, and that the being behind this being is his wife by the name of Asherah. Okay, so do you worship Yahweh and his wife Asherah? I'm telling you, the Christians, that particular Christian who made this argument will be stumped. They cannot answer this question. Okay, this is usually how I checkmate them, right? So Alhamdulillah for Islam, Alhamdulillah. So that is precisely the reason why Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala avoided mentioning YHWH altogether, because Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala knew that this name is the name of a pagan idol. And by the way, keep in mind that this archaeological finding was only found in the 1980s or 1990s. Okay, so this is yet again another testimony to the miracle of the Quran. How would God Almighty in the Bible know that the name YHWH is the name of an idol? Okay, it's the name of a satanic being here, which is drawn on a jar. How would the God of the Bible of the Quran know this? Okay, because the Quran was revealed 1,400 years ago. Okay, way before this engraven jar image was found in the 1970s, 1980s. Okay, again, Allahu Akbar. This is proof that definitely the Quran cannot be written by the Prophet. It has to be revealed by God. Okay, God knew that the name YHWH is satanic. God Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala knew that Yahweh is Satan, precisely because of this. And he knows that the usage of the name will be problematic. Therefore, he avoids using it. Okay, you don't see this mentioned. I mean, we have 99 names in the Quran. Okay, Allahu Lazi La ilaha illahu Rahmanur Rahim, Al Malik, Al Qudus, As Salam, Al Mu'min, Al Muhaimin, Al Aziz, Al Jabbar, Al Mutakabbir. I can go on, right? To 99 names, right? And Al Wahhab. How many names do you want? Okay, so we have 99 names. None of them mention YHWH. Why does he not mention YHWH? Because YHWH, Yahweh here, is Satan. It's really that simple. Okay, so there you go. Checkmate. I just checkmated the Christian argument, okay, regarding their false notion that somehow the Bible preserves the divine name of God. Okay, there's no divine name of God. Okay, God has no need of a secret divine name that only the believers would know. Okay, you see, if you think about it from a different perspective. Okay, if God is truly almighty, God is truly universal, God is truly for all peoples, for all times, why would it be necessary for God to take on a specific name that only a particular people will know about? Wouldn't that defeat the purpose of God being universal, being, all encompassing, all merciful for all the worlds? Because if there's only a specific name that God revealed to a specific people, and only those specific people know about God, that would mean that God, Him Almighty, Na'udzubillah min zalik, is only meant for these specific peoples. Okay, because no one else knows about this God except for these particular people, right? For example, Krishna. Okay, I mean, does anyone in Mexico knows who Krishna is? Does anyone in the United States know who Krishna is? Does anyone in Japan knows who Krishna is? Does anyone in China know who this word Krishna? I mean, let's say 1,000 years ago, do they know who Krishna is? I doubt they do. Okay, I doubt they do. They were probably following other religions. Okay, so therefore, it is my belief. In fact, this is backed by by history and by etymological studies. Right, every single nation has a word for the one true God. Okay, like for example, in English we know Him as God. Okay, there's nothing wrong with calling God God. Okay, it's not His name. It's His name. It's His name, and at the same time, it is not His name. Okay, it is a noun. At the same time, it is also His name, His specific name. Because when you say God, you know immediately you are referring to this one all-encompassing being who controls the universe, who is not Krishna, who is not Buddha, who is not Jesus, who is not anyone else except for this unseen supreme being who rules the universe and is known by only one word, God, right? So in I think in Persian, there's this word Hoda. Hoda is also a reference to the one true God. Okay, you can't call Krishna Hoda, you can't call Buddha Hoda. Okay, you can only call the one true God as Hoda. Okay, and in the Malay language, right? In the Malay language, we use the word Tuhan. Okay, Tuhan. Okay, and there is a previous term, a term prior to that, which I mean, the Muslims today don't use it, but back in those days, they say Dewata Mulia Raya. Okay, so this term Dewata Mulia Raya can only refer to the one true supreme God. You cannot call Krishna Dewata Mulia Raya. You cannot call Ganesha Dewata Mulia Raya. It only refers to the one true God. Okay, and it's the same thing with Tuhan. If you say Tuhan, okay, there's two, of course, in the Malay language, there's the capital T and the small t, right? So if you're referring to other lesser gods, then you will say Tuhan with a small t. But if you put T in the caps, Tuhan, it can only refer to the one true God. You cannot refer to Buddha as Tuhan, as in the caps, okay, the T caps, right? You cannot refer to Krishna as Tuhan. No, he's a small cap T, small G God, and small T Tuhan, right? Yeah, and you cannot refer to any other demigods or whatever as with a small T, Tuhan. Okay, you can only refer to Tuhan. You can only refer to the supreme being, the most high supreme being, the unseen being, as Tuhan, capital T, caps. Okay, so I believe that every other language has this as well. So in Mandarin, there's Sheng Ti. Sheng Ti also refers to the one true God. Okay, Muslims specifically use the term Zhengzhu. Okay, Zhengzhu. So for non-Muslims, okay, non-Muslims, Mandarin non-Muslims who are Mandarin speakers, okay, they use the term Sheng Ti, but they still refer to the one true God. Okay, and the Muslims in China, they use Mandarin speakers, they use Zhengzhu. Okay, but it still refers to the same being. Okay, so if you are going to claim that this mysterious Yahweh is the name of the true divine name of the supreme deity, how exactly are you going to tell the Mandarin speakers that? Because YHWH, first of all, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, YHWH is not even known outside of Israel. Okay, so how would you even know how to pronounce it? And I think the Chinese in China especially are going to find it very difficult to pronounce the word YHWH. Okay, because they don't have the Y. It's not something which you can pronounce in their language. Okay, because you have to understand that each language have their own phonetical sounds. Okay, so we pronounce words or letters according to our own native understanding of pronunciation. Like for example, Allah, right? Arabic Allah, but I've heard certain people. I think most of them are from the subcontinent. They pronounce it as Allah. Okay, Allah. Okay. The Arabic is actually Allah, right? It's actually pronounced Allah. That's the actually correct pronunciation. But there's nothing wrong with saying Allah because that's what you are referring to. Okay. And then I've and then there are like for example some Europeans, they pronounce it a bit off. Okay, so yeah, so going back to so my point here is that okay, God does not have a divine name. There's no such concept in Islam. And if you study religions, especially the history of religions in particular, there's no such idea that there's only one specific name for God. Okay, every civilization, every language has a name for God. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with using those names for the one true God. Okay, of course, as Muslims, we of course want to be closer to the Quran, because the Quran, is the divine name. Is the divine name for is the divine name for God. Sorry. I mean, the Quran is the divine word of God. It's the speech of Allah, right? And because it's the speech of Allah, and Allah refers to himself as Allah in Arabic, in the Quran. Therefore, we Muslims, we want to be closer to that. So therefore, That is why we Muslims refer to the one true God as Allah, right? Out of habit, usually. But there's nothing wrong with calling Allah God, okay, in normal speech, okay, because that is Him. He is God. He is Hoda. He is Shangti. He is Zhengju. He is Dewata Mula Raya. He is Tuhan. All these names refer to Allah, the one true God. This is my position, okay. So I really don't understand why people are making, Christians especially, they make a fuss out of this, right? Okay. Walaikum salam, brother Fidos. Oh, yes, Yahweh is Satan. Indeed, he is. Right? Okay. Maybe later, bro. Sekejap. Okay, all right, sure. If you want to come on, you may come on whenever you want. All right. So MA, my sister MA. The picture is inspired by or is Satan himself. Yes. Nauzubillah min zalik. Let's keep us. I hope that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala keep us away from this, demonic being by the name of Yahweh. All right. I mean, I mean, you can look at the image yourself. Whenever I see this image, I feel disgust and hatred for this being. Right. I mean, it's clearly you could see that this being is the devil. Okay. I mean, it's on the jar. All right. It's not something I made up. Okay. Allah is pronounced the same on the subcontinent as in the Middle East and all over the world. Oh, okay. I didn't know that because I mean okay, I did notice that Dr. Zakir Naik, he pronounces Allah as Allah. I don't know whether you noticed this. So I'm not sure whether this is something uncommon or is it common throughout the subcontinent. I'm not sure. But of course, in Malaysia, we try to pronounce the word closely to the Arabic. So it's Allah, right? It's Allah. I mean, it's something that we have been practicing since we were very young. So you won't find us pronouncing it as Allah, right? So I know there are Muslims who pronounce it as Allah, but I personally I'm not too bothered by it because I know that it's a reference to the one true God. So it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't really matter. As long as they use it in everyday speech is fine. But if they were to read Surah to Fatiha, then they have to be careful because they cannot change the sounds, right? If they do, then the meaning might change, right? So it's Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, not Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I don't want to change it. Right? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Okay, not something else, right? Okay. So there's about 6 people right now watching this live stream, and it's 45 minutes. Alhamdulillah. Yes. Thank you very much for joining my live stream. And I'm still waiting for anyone who wants to come onto the live stream and have a chat with me or ask any questions if you prefer. Yeah, it's the live stream is here. My throat is dry and I cannot take a drink. Okay, so I have to slow down a bit. Basically, I'm just using my saliva to as fluid to lubricate my throat. Okay. So I think I need to slow down a bit in terms of talking, right? Okay. Okay. Mm. We call Allah Allah, where the L is pronounced. So you're right, we do pronounce the L letter in Allah's name. Oh, I see. So I think this is a very subcontinental thing, I think, right? Because I do hear Indians and some Pakistanis, they always pronounce Allah, Allah, not Allah. Okay. So it's actually supposed to be a silent L there, but yeah, I mean it's fine, it's fine. At least this is normal. Okay, this is normal in language. Okay, languages. All right, it's normal for someone to pronounce it according to their own native dialect or their native phonemes. Okay, sounds. All right, so it's not something alien, right? Okay, so. All right, so the sister here says Islam is the only religion that makes sense and has a historical basis or evidence for it. Yes, I agree with you, sister. 100%, 200%. Definitely, definitely. Islam is a true religion and there's no other religion apart from Islam. Alhamdulillah for Islam. Okay. That is why I'm a Muslim, sister. Okay. That's why we are all Muslims, right? Okay. Here in the US, reverse also say Allah with the L pronounced. Yep, I do notice this. I do notice this. They say Allah. They say Allah. But I'm okay with it, right? But I'm hoping that with time, eventually you will pick up the silent L, so that it's pronounced as Allah, not Allah, because it has to be more accurate, right? So I mean, Allah is fine if you can't pronounce it. I mean, I can't blame the person who pronounce it that way, because that's how he can pronounce words, and probably he doesn't really know how to make the L silent, because to pronounce Allah is not easy. Okay, when I was younger, I always get a bit offended when people say Allah, but over time, I guess due to my advancing age, and I guess due to some wisdom in my years now, I do realize that is that the word Allah is not really easy to pronounce. Okay, if you don't know how to if you don't know how to articulate it properly, your tongue can be a bit twisted in that sense. I mean, I have the benefit of pronouncing the word for 43 years. Okay, so I have a 43 years advantage over reverts, right? So a revert will probably be pronouncing the word Allah very very recently, right? So I don't think they can articulate it properly, so they will have to pronounce it as Allah. Yeah, but I think that's fine for the start, and I hope that that will continually improve as time goes by, and eventually the revert would pronounce it as Allah, right? That would be or at the very least try to sound closer to it, right? Oh, it's 7 people right now watching this live stream. Oh, that's interesting. All right, sister Emmy again. How is your fasting growing? The long days of fasting. What time does the fast open over there? Well, you see, in Malaysia, we don't have the 4 seasons. Okay, we don't have spring, summer, autumn, winter. It's eternally summer here. The only seasons that we have rainy season, dry season, and flood season. Okay, that's and election season. That's supposed to be a joke. Okay, so we don't have the 4 seasons, therefore our times don't vary much. Okay, it's very very easy to actually fast in Malaysia, sister Ukti. It's very very easy to fast in Malaysia. Okay, it's actually a blessing to be able to fast in Malaysia, because the times are pretty much fixed. So yeah, suhoor is before 6 right now, and Fajar is around Fajar is around 6, like that, 2 minutes, and then we fast until around 7:15, 7:24. Yeah, 7:24, and we break the fast at around 7:25, 26, depending on your location, of course. All right, so Alhamdulillah, the fast has always been like this from the very beginning of my ever since I've been practicing, right, as a Muslim, of course. I mean, I started the fast when I was around 10 years old. Yeah, so it has been like this since I was 10. So yeah. Oh, I think Sahil Luke is here. Okay, I'm going to bring on Sahil Luke. Hi there.
Hey, what's up, MENJ? Or MENJ? How you doing, man?
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I think I've been inviting you to come on the live stream for some time, but you were always busy, or you had some other chores. I'm glad that you decided to come onto my live stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you been?
So how? Yes, I'm good. I'm good. But right now, yeah, I'm in the middle of the fast, of course. So yeah, it's been yeah, it's been okay for me so far. Yeah.
That's good. I heard
Yeah.
you might come to the States, maybe.
No, no, I'm not actually planning to come to the States. Look, it's just that I actually rediscovered my old passport, my old US passport. I don't know whether you know this, but I was born in the States. Did you know this?
Yeah, you told me like in California or the San Jose or something like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. This is the passport that I found. Yeah. I don't know. You can see this.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I need to renew it, right? Because it has been expired for the past 20 years.
Hey, it's all good. It doesn't matter if 20 years or 10 years. It's all good, bro.
Yeah,
My
but I think I need to go through some paperwork or something like this to prove that I was born in the States, and I need to like show them my birth certs and so on. Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
credit, bro.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
asking you, did you check out the recent debate between Zachary Hussein and Dr. Brown?
No, I've actually not watched any debates. I would love to watch that. Maybe you could post the link in the chat and I can check it out.
All right, yeah, yeah, all right. So, well, it's not up officially from the Muslim debate channel, but there's other channels like a couple small Muslim channels and a bunch of
Mm.
small Christian channels that they posted it,
All right.
so you can
Okay.
find it. But um, yeah, I was just wondering if you listened to it. Yeah,
All right.
I think it was a neutral debate, in my opinion.
Mm.
And I know you can't
Mm.
comment because you haven't listened to it, but
Yeah, I have not.
I don't think
So
it was one way or another. I think it was
what what was the topic
I
about,
think
by the way?
huh?
What was the topic about?
The topic was Muhammad is Muhammad prophesied in the Bible.
Oh, okay. That's a very common topic then.
Yeah, so I think it was in my opinion, I think it was like the best debate where it's half and half. Like I think
Okay.
Zachary was saying that like he gave strong arguments and rebuttals,
Okay.
but I think Dr. Brown gives equally strong responses. So
Mm.
that's what
Mm.
you want. I'm a Christian, so I don't want to say, oh yeah, Dr. Brown smashed him, but I would say it was a good run for the money. I think it
Yeah,
was equal.
yeah, I
I
mean
think it was
in
like you have one strong rebuttal, then a next
yeah,
strong response, then
right,
a next
right.
strong rebuttal, then a next strong response, and that's what makes for a good debate. So that's what I think, brother.
Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, I need to take a look at the debate, of course, and see what the arguments are. Because anyway, with regards to the prophecies in the Bible, frankly, I don't really use those arguments anymore because I feel that this is very contentious because it can be interpreted both ways. There are, of course, for me as a Muslim, of course, when I read the text, there is a strong indication of it pointing to the prophet, but there will always be counter
Right,
arguments and there will be always be disputes. So in the end, it doesn't really go anywhere if the other side just doesn't want to
right.
admit. Yeah. So
And Minch,
yeah.
when
Yes,
you debated, I think it was TJ, right? Last time, I
yes,
tried to help
I
you
did.
out, bro. Yeah, so I tried to help you out, not help you out, but he's a vile atheist, bro. Vile, bro.
I know, I know. I think I called him
And
up. I called him out on it, right, several times in during the debate, actually.
yeah, you did. And so
Mm,
I
mm,
was trying to set you up like for like something good, and I said,
mm.
hey, what you
Yeah.
know, hey T Jump, what hadith say that Aisha's age was 18? And he said, oh, there's none. And so that's my bad, bro. I was just trying to set
Yeah.
him up because
Yeah.
he thinks he's smart and he knows
Yeah.
everything and stuff like that. So
Yes. Yes. That's right.
I know that there's hadith that say the age, and then through math, you know there you can deduce some
Yeah.
ages. But that was
Yeah.
my
That's
point.
yeah. Yes.
My
Yes.
point was
Yes.
like just trying to set him up. But
Yeah.
apparently, I guess he studied it, so we didn't get him.
Yeah.
But that was my point, bro.
Yeah. I mean, there are some Muslims who try to deny the idea that Aisha may have been married off much earlier, but I don't buy those. Okay, I'm more traditionalist in the sense that I take the hadiths at face value, and I don't have any problems with Aisha being married off at a very young age, and the
Right,
marriage being
right,
consummated at being 9, because I don't think there's any point arguing it, and I don't think there's any shame in admitting to this, because back in those days, everyone was doing it anyway. So why is it a moral issue? It's not a moral issue. I mean, of course, now today we don't do this because there's
right,
a lot of there's pedophilia and everything of the sort, right? And but pedophilia and
bro, Minch.
child abuse. Yes,
I don't bring it up
yeah,
because honestly, it's the one
yeah,
argument with Muslim. If you hear me in my videos, I
yeah,
never bring it
yeah,
up because
yeah.
what
That's
you
right.
say is true. Okay, well,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah. Because
and
yeah,
so
yeah. So as I was saying, these issues of pedophilia and child abuse and all this, these are all modern constructs. You see, you cannot apply this 1,400 years ago. These things don't exist, right? Yeah, yeah.
right. So
There's no such thing as child
I
abuse. There's no such thing as
right.
child abuse 1,400 years
But
ago.
Minch,
Okay.
but Minch, if you listen to
Yes.
my other lectures,
Okay.
have I
All right.
brought that up? No, I never
Yeah.
bring it up because why? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just something like I agree with you. It's do you
Yeah.
hear me bring it up? No, I don't bring it up. Why?
Mm.
Because
I respect you for it
it's
then.
just
If you if then you're among the very few Christians who actually accept this reality, this historical reality. Then I respect you
well,
for
yeah,
that.
of
Right?
course. So, but it
Mm.
makes. I mean, it's with the culture, so it makes sense. So yes, but I explain
Yeah.
why and stuff like that. So yes.
Yeah.
So you know
So
what I'm
we
saying?
actually
It
yeah.
just
Sorry, I need
it's
to
sad that some try to go overboard. Oh
yeah.
no, it's bad, but yeah. But I mean,
Mm.
if you're telling me that it's just a minority,
Yeah.
I haven't checked.
It is.
I haven't
It
checked,
is. It
Minch.
is.
I'm the
Yeah.
minority, but if-
Yes.
are you telling me I'm the minority?
Sorry.
Are you telling me that I'm the minority? My position?
You are the minority among Christians.
Wow, are you serious?
Yeah, I am serious. I am serious. I'm not joking. Sorry, you are a minority. You will not
No
find a single
manches,
Christian.
güey.
You will not find a single Christian who would agree with the position that it may be possible that during back then 1,400 years ago it is acceptable for young marriages to happen. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to
Well,
answer
I have
this to
some
this
I
quick.
have some
Sorry,
quotes. I have some
sorry.
quotes. I have like three,
Yeah,
four quotes
sorry,
right
look.
here.
Yeah, sorry, look. I need to answer this. Okay, so there's this brother here, American Muslim revert. Hey, MENJ, can I come on? Yeah, you can come on.
Okay.
American Muslim
Hey,
revert.
Minch,
All right,
it was good talking to you,
go
brother.
ahead.
I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go make some food,
All
but
right.
it was good talking to you.
All right. Don't you?
And
I was
I
wondering whether
hopefully talk to you next time.
I was wondering whether you would like to have another debate with me again.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the one. Do you know anyone by the name of Louis Dizon? By the way,
Who?
Louis Dizon.
Yeah, he's
Do
he went from some guy who went from like Catholic to Eastern
yeah,
Orthodox
yeah,
back to
yeah,
Catholic,
yeah. Do you know? I mean, do you
and
know him Do you happen to know him personally or otherwise?
yes,
You know him personally?
yes.
Can you convey to him a message for me?
Sure.
Okay, just tell him that I'm interested to debate with him on Islam or on the Quran because he has been making some claims about the Quran and about Islam on Michael Lofton's channel. I'm pretty sure you're aware who Michael Lofton is, so I'm interested to debate him. Whether it's on Lofton's channel or whether it's on my channel, it's up to him. Just tell him that, all
Okay,
right?
so all right. So what do you want me to text him?
I don't have his number. I don't have his contact. Yeah,
No, I'll text him, but I want to say it's
yeah,
from you. I'm gonna say it's from you. But what do
yes.
you want me to text him?
Just tell him that I'm interested to debate him on those topics. Yeah, on what
You're
he has
interested or not
discussed.
interested?
I'm interested to debate him on the issues that he
Okay,
discussed on
on what
Michael
topic?
Lofton's channel. On the topics could be around those which he has already mentioned on Michael Lofton's channel.
And remind me what they are.
Basically about Islam, about the Quran, about Islam and the Quran mostly. Yeah.
All right. I'm not gonna text him tonight because he's probably sleeping. But tomorrow I'll text him
Go
and
ahead,
I'm gonna
please do.
email you what he says.
Yeah, you have my email, right? So you let me know, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna text him tomorrow. But what you say? But
Okay.
so I'll let you know what he says.
Right.
And I'll email you. Minch.
Okay,
So
sure.
okay,
And of
so
course, and of course, I would love to have a separate debate with you as well. Of course, it can be on anything else, right? Yeah.
yeah, of course,
Just a,
Minch,
yeah.
you have been the most respectful debater and stuff like that. We disagree, of course, and I know you say
Thank
things
you.
about my God and stuff. I don't take it personal. So
All right.
um,
Yeah. Okay.
so
Right.
it's just yeah, I think you're a good person because you do provide knowledge that some I think other Muslims lack. So there's a part where you bring and stuff like that where I appreciate because you're
I
like
try to
okay,
be
yeah,
different from the others. I try to be different from the others. Okay. So
yeah,
yeah. So if
it's
you yeah, all right. Okay. I won't hold you back. If you want to leave, you can leave. All right. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I'll let him know and I'll get back to you. I'll
Okay.
let Lewis know. All right, Minch. You take care,
I'll see
man. Good
you.
talking to you, and God
Good
bless
talking
you,
to you
bro.
as well. Hopefully you'll come on my next live stream. All right. Okay. I'll see you again.
All right, sounds good. All right, God bless,
All
bro.
right. Thank you. Right. All right. So, brother John Patterson has decided to come onto the scene, right? Our brother our American Muslim revert brother who recited his shahada several days ago, I think, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong, brother John. All right. Assalamualaikum, brother.
Alaikum salam, brother. Good to talk to you. Finally.
MashaAllah, finally, Aki. I mean, we still need to do that, that interview thing, right? Because
Right.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I had some time tonight. I just finished my shift here at my job, and I saw that you were on, so I figured I would reach out to you, and we could talk a little bit tonight,
Yes,
at least
sure,
for a
sure,
few
sure.
minutes.
Sure, but we will need to do that separate session later, right? Then the one that we discussed before, right?
Right.
Because I have a lot. Yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious to know what do you actually work as? Because it seems that you have been traveling here and back and forth.
I drive semi trucks here in the United States, big 18 wheelers.
So you're a long haul truck driver, I would say.
Yes.
Okay. It's the same job as my cousin. Okay, because my cousin drives this long trailer with 8 wheels from the east coast to to the west coast. Yeah, almost all the time. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a similar job. Yeah, similar
yeah.
job
I do
description. I
the.
understand. Yeah. So you do that too, right?
Yeah, I do that. Yeah.
I
Uh,
understood. Yeah.
been doing
Yeah.
that for 13 years, and
Mashallah. Yes.
uh,
Okay.
so yeah, I did accept Islam on March 17th. It
Yeah.
was the best.
Before that, I would like to congratulate brother. Welcome to Islam, Maki. Welcome. You are now considered to be my brother in Islam. And if you have any problems or any issues or whatever, you can always come to us as a brother. We will always try to help you, inshallah. All right.
Oh, yes, thank you, brother. I appreciate that, and I have to
Yes.
say, the
Yeah.
Muslim community as a whole has been just incredible since I said La
Alhamdulillah.
ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.
Yes.
Those words are so special to the Muslim world that
It is. It
when
is.
they when they hear you say those words, it's the best thing that you can say, and especially when you mean it. And at the time
It's
when
the
I
words of the
said it,
Tawhid. It's the
yeah,
words of Tawhid. Yeah.
and
So as you know, it's similar in meaning to what the Israelites would say. So it's I believe that is um Shema, the Shema. Okay, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Okay, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is only one Lord. Okay, so it's a similar meaning with La ilaha illallah. So La ilaha illallah means there is no God except for the one true God. Okay. I always like to translate the word Allah to the one true God, so that it's very clear what Allah means, right? And then we have Muhammad Rasulullah. So Muhammad is his messenger, right? So that's basically the essence of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Yeah.
well, and I'm really happy to talk to you tonight because now I can actually talk about some of the things that I wanted to say on the Dean show, but I didn't really have
Yeah.
time.
Go ahead.
And that my shahada was 40 years in the making. And the reason I say that is because I realized from a really early age that there was something really wrong in the United States in terms of its lack of family, its lack of uh, community, if you will. And I always felt I was different from the bulk of the population because of that. I never really felt there was a sense of community and belonging in the United States. And as I grew older, it just got worse and worse. And now it's probably the worst it's ever been. And one thing that really saddens me is when I see Muslims that, for whatever the reason, they don't like their countries and they don't like their religion. And I love
Yeah.
Islam. I love Islam. Um,
Alhamdulillah.
and so, what I would say to my brothers and sisters is, depending on what country that you're living in, you may not have as much money as the United States does. You may not have as much stuff or fast cars or whatever it may be. But the one thing that you have that's more valuable than anything is your deen, is the deen of Islam, your sense of family, your sense of community. There are so many Americans right now who are searching for that and they can't find it because they don't know where to look. And if you don't have
Yes.
family, you don't have structure, you don't have that sense of community, then it really doesn't matter how much stuff you have. It doesn't matter how much money you have, because it's all for naught. And I was always searching for that sense of community, and I went to a whole bunch of different Christian churches. I tried going that route, and even though the people were welcoming, I have to say it doesn't hold a candle to the sense of community and belonging that I felt when I accepted Islam, and then when I
Oh,
attended Masjid for the first time. I mean, I'm still feeling good from attending mosque for the first time, especially when
I'm
I
pretty
wish you
sure
could have. I wish you
must
could
have
have
been a
been there.
exhilarating experience, right? I mean, the rush, the sense of rush, the sense of welcomeness, the sense of belonging. It's all rushing up into your emotions, welling up in your heart. I'm pretty sure you experienced that, right?
Oh, and yes, it was, and it was overwhelming. I mean, because I've,
Yes.
as somebody who, for most of his life, was a non-Muslim, and then to accept Islam and then to walk into that atmosphere, it was unlike anything I've ever seen before. And so I got to tell you about when I got to the mosque. My first time
Yeah.
I went into I've never stepped foot into a mosque before last week. Now this was a few days after I accepted Islam.
Okay.
So I get to the mosque, and it's a really big mosque in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. It's probably the biggest one that there
Oh,
is. I
okay.
mean, huge. And I
All
remember
right.
seeing it, passing it on the highway, going back and forth in my semi.
All right.
But
All
now that
right.
I'm a new Muslim, I said, you know what? That's the mosque that I want to attend.
All right.
And so I pull up in there, and I really didn't know, because when you're a brand new Muslim and you don't really know anything about the community yet, I was incredibly nervous because I didn't know what I was going to say.
Oh yeah, I could
And
imagine.
yeah, and so I'm seeing the brothers and sisters walk in there. So I get out of my car, and I finally had worked up the courage to walk inside,
Okay.
and I'm wearing my head covering.
Yes.
And so I wanted to identify myself that I was a Muslim, and I walked in
That's
there,
yeah.
and so I'm walking in the mosque, and I'm seeing the most beautiful architecture I've ever seen,
Mm,
and the amount of money that the Muslims spend for their masjids, and how
okay.
clean they keep them, the
Yeah.
carpet, uh, how immaculately spotless they were. It was breathtaking to me.
Okay.
And now there was only a few brothers and sisters that were in the mosque when I first walked in there, and so finally I decided to take off my shoes and walk on the prayer rug, because
Of course.
again,
Of
with me
course.
being a new Muslim, I didn't know that, hey,
Yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
take your
Yeah.
shoes
Yeah.
off
You have to
before you
take off the
walk
shoe.
on there.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to do that. Yeah. Each time you
Yeah,
enter a mosque, you need to take off your shoes. Yeah.
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 And so I take off my shoes and I put them on the little where they give people to put their shoes at.
Yeah. Shoe racks. Yeah. Mm.
And so I walk up to a couple of brothers in there, and one of them, I would say he was probably from Syria, or maybe even from Turkey, but he was definitely an Arab.
Okay.
And he I'd say he was speaking Arabic, but I couldn't understand a word he was saying.
Okay.
But luckily, the other brother that was next to him could translate for me. And one of the things he said was, is that a white Muslim? Is that a white man who's a Muslim? That's what he was saying in Arab. And
You will get the Aki, you will get the same reaction too if you were to walk to any mosque in Malaysia as well. You will get the same question.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
he was just as surprised of seeing me as I was being in a masjid for the first time. And
I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and so I think it was his son that was with him who was translating, talking to us
Okay.
back and forth, and
Okay.
at first he didn't believe it, but when I said La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and well, then then the gentleman believed that I was an actual
Okay.
Muslim after he heard me utter them.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
when he heard me utter those words, you should have seen how big his eyes got when I said that. And
I can imagine. Yeah.
and
You
so
would. If I can tell you that if my father were to listen to you saying those words right now, he would. Yeah, he would. His eyes would go large too. Okay.
yeah, and
All right. Yeah.
so his son that was with him was telling me in English that white American men who become converts to Islam, I guess, is rare. You don't really see that a lot.
Yeah, not many. Yeah.
And so, but once he realized that I was an actual Muslim, he was giving me hugs and kissing me on the cheek, and
Mashallah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
and he was I really felt like family, and I had never met this man before in my life. You see, in the United States, you don't have that. You wouldn't have that at a Christian church, where if a new convert to Christianity or Judaism or whatever, they would be welcoming, but they wouldn't be that welcoming. It's just, that's not a part of the culture. And
I see. Okay.
The United States. And so immediately, this man who didn't speak a word of English, he's teaching me how to pray, and his son is translating. And so he's doing doing the prostration and showing me how to do it. And his son says, "Did you do ablution?" And at that time, I didn't know what ablution was, because again, I'm a brand new Muslim. That's the first time I've ever stepped inside foot of a masjid. And and that's when he told me, you have to, before you pray, you have to wash yourself. And then
you have to do. Yes.
Yeah. So
did he teach you? So did he teach you the ablution?
Yeah, he showed me. Well, he had an app on his phone that I guess shows you how to do it. And
all right. Okay.
Because I remember before I had walked onto the prayer rug, I was walking back to the restroom area, and I saw this little washing station, and I didn't know what it was for. At first, I thought it was I thought it was a water fountain. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what's that thing? I thought it was a fountain. And then I walk into the bathroom, and I'm seeing a hose by the toilet, and I'm thinking, I didn't know what the hose was for or anything. But
okay, all right.
Since then, all of that's been explained. But
all right.
But so they had given me probably, it must have been several $100s worth of books. I mean, really nice.
Mashallah. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Incredible books. I mean, and again, Christian churches don't spend.
Do you happen to have a copy of this, or do you need a copy of this? A translation of this? Do you have one?
I have one.
You have one?
Yeah.
What it's from? I think it's from the Clear Quran, right? It's the Clear Quran by Mustafa something, the translator.
Yeah. I have the one in paperback.
I can send you this. I can send you a copy if you want. I'm actually giving out free Quran translations, but it's actually meant for non-Muslims. But since you are a new revert, I think you will find this beneficial as well. But this translation is by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Maybe you would find it beneficial. I will send a copy to you if you want.
Okay, I'll email you my
we can do that later. Yeah. We can do that during our session, right? Yeah, right. Okay.
And so they told me to, and I didn't realize that the brothers usually aren't going to be at the masjid till just before it's time to pray. And so they told me to come back in a few hours, and then that's when someone, the imam would be there, and then the director of the dawah would be there, and I could introduce myself to them.
Okay.
And so and this was just before the first night of Ramadan. And so I came back, and I met with the imam, told him who I was, and I gave him the email to Gain Peace, who's run by Brother Sabil Ahmed, just that he could verify. And so once he verified that, they gave me a welcoming package.
All right.
Well, they gave it to me, and then they said, "Hey, could we re-give this to you at our prayer service tonight in front of the entire community?"
All
And I
right.
said, "Yeah, that's fine." And so,
Mm.
so 500 brothers had all came into the masjid, because this is a big mosque.
Yes.
Brothers and sisters, they're all in there,
Mhm.
and they introduced me before the community, and they said, "Our brother John Patterson has accepted Islam, and we want to welcome him."
Subhanallah.
And as soon as the rest of the community, and half of them don't speak English, they have to have translators.
Yeah.
So there's people standing next to them, and they're translating. Once the masjid had found out that I was a new member of Islam, the entire place went nuts. I mean, everybody's shouting takbir, Allahu Akbar,
Allahu
Allahu
Akbar.
Akbar. I
Allahu
mean,
Akbar. Yeah.
it was absolutely incredible. And so once that was done, we all start praying. And so I have someone on the side of me who,
All right.
I guess the mosque had put in charge, I guess, of helping me to make sure that I prayed the right way. It's
All
just,
right.
it's a standard thing that
Yes.
most mosques do for new Muslims. They have someone to
That's
help.
good. That's good to hear. Alhamdulillah. I mean, it's not easy to find a place where they will teach new Muslims how. Like in Malaysia, unfortunately, we don't. I mean, the mosque won't provide you with such help, but we do have NGOs, Muslim reverts NGOs, which will assist you with this kind of matters. Yeah.
Mhm. And so we were all praying, and so the imam led the prayer, and it was a fantastic evening. And
Sounds
so
like a great evening for you. Yeah.
it was the best evening I've had in a long time, and I can't wait to go back.
Mashallah, it's good.
I have a new Muslim training class tomorrow. I mean,
right. Okay.
this masjid down that I've been attending at, they are fabulous about how organized they are with training new Muslims.
Yeah. That's good. Alhamdulillah. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if you are attending any classes, but it seems that you've already answered the question for me. So I would suggest that you continue going through their courses and understand deeply the meaning of being a Muslim, and the practices, especially because as Muslims we need to pray 5 times a day. We need to do the fast. We have do the zakah. So I think these things will be taught to you in stages. So my advice to you would be, just don't rush. Don't worry about doing these things correctly or not. Just go through them slowly, understand the process, and eventually you'll get round to it, right? It will probably be difficult at first. Like, for example, when you do the salah, there are certain rituals. Like, for example, when you say this, when you bring up your hands, you need to say Sami Allahu liman hamida. And then when you put down your hands, you say Rabbana lakal hamd. Maybe at first you won't be able to even remember those phrases, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be difficult for you, but don't worry about it. Just in time you will get the hang of it, right?
Yeah. And your viewers are probably wondering what had led me to accept Islam, and I like to share that with them. For many years before I knew anything about Islam, I was a harsh Islamophobe at one time.
Yes.
And now nobody had ever heard of me because I wasn't really active on YouTube. I didn't really care. I didn't really care about money. I had a genuine fear of Islam because of what had been taught.
Maybe you can tell me what actually triggered your Islamophobia. Was it because of 9/11 or something like along those lines?
Well, that was probably what started it. Because before 9/11, whenever I would think of Islam and the Middle East and Arabs, and my thoughts were mostly concerned. I mean, and this is going to sound silly, but most Americans like myself before 9/11, whenever you would think of Islam, you would think of like flying carpets and genies.
I think you watch too much Disney.
Yeah.
No, it's normal. It's normal. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about the cartoon Aladdin and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, I like that cartoon, by the way. It's very entertaining.
That was a fabulous cartoon as a kid.
It is. It is.
So I didn't know anything about Islam at all, like most Americans didn't before 9/11, because when you look at where America is geographically located, I mean, we're surrounded by 3 oceans, and then Canada's up top, Mexico's down on the bottom.
Yeah.
So
Yes, that's right.
we are a long way away from the Muslim world. A long way.
That's right. That's right. And you're basically surrounded by Christian countries anyway, so you wouldn't know anything about Islam in the first place. Yeah.
And well, what happened was, and I want your viewers to understand how Islamophobia really got started.
Okay.
When 9/11 happened, that is what really started to attract Americans' attention towards Islam in a negative way. And by that I mean, after the Twin Towers were attacked, you had politicians like George Bush and Dick Cheney and you know, and all of the career you had all of the career players in Washington. After the attack, I'll never forget it. The first thing they said, they got on television and they would say things like Islam hates us and they want to kill us and they want to take our freedoms away, and just this crazy, insane rhetoric. And they did not contain it to Al Qaeda. They did not contain it to terrorism or anything like that. They would make blanket statements about Islam. And
yes, that's right.
Whenever you have American politicians say stuff like that, along with the media and celebrities, people who don't know any better or should know better because they are public officials and they talk to Muslim leaders around the world, they should know better than to say stuff like that. Well, once they started saying stuff like that, that's what got people's attention about Islam in a negative way. That's where the Islamophobia started, was after that. I mean, and because it was in lieu of a major terrorist attack, that is, a lot of people believed it, unfortunately, but that's not what Islam is about. And as a new Muslim and learning about the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his mission, what his mission was, and who he was, these politicians and media figures did a huge disservice to so many people by saying that stuff. And so, and then what happened was, you had, after we had pulled out of Iraq, so the United States invades first Afghanistan and then Iraq. Well, once Saddam Hussein had fell and the United States pulled out of Iraq, and then you had the formation of ISIS, which came after that in Iraq and Syria. Right around that time, when ISIS was doing all the crazy stuff that they were doing, most of which was to Muslims, by the way. It wasn't to it was to Muslims. It wasn't to Christians. It wasn't.
It wasn't to non-Muslims. In fact, they were doing a lot of cruel things to Muslims themselves.
It was to Muslims. And yes, they still did do bad things towards non-Muslims. I'm not discounting that, but
of course.
But most of the bad stuff they did was to Muslims. Now, so right around when ISIS came about, that is when you had like the David Woods and the Sam Shimones.
Those people. I have my fair share of experience with them. I know those people. They know me.
Because before ISIS, you never heard of them. You never heard of those guys before.
Actually, I know them. Actually, I know them since 2000. Shamoun was earlier. Shamoun was way back in 1990. He was already active way back in 1999. Okay, David Wood started his business in 2009. So, but I already knew of them before, way before these events happened.
So go figure. 2009. That is right around when we started to pull people out of Iraq, and that is when the power vacuum was created. Now, and so
that's right.
So what I want my Muslim brothers and sisters to know, that is when the Islamophobia business started. First at 9/11, and then later when the formation of ISIS happened. Now, so you had these politicians, you had all these Islamophobes on the internet going on and on and on and on and on, Meanwhile, the Islamophobes were making a fortune peddling all this stuff, because you had
Right.
people watching and you had people donating to them and their Patreon
Right.
accounts and stuff like that.
Right.
And so I used to follow their content, not knowing any better, when I was
Yes.
still, I was an atheist for a long time. Then later I became an agnostic person, which really is kind of foolish, because an agnostic is someone who believes in God but doesn't really follow God. I mean, but that's what I was, you know.
Okay.
So I was a fool,
Okay.
I guess, because I said it was foolish.
I don't
Then, okay,
know.
so
Maybe
then
some of the
later,
agnostics will find problem with. I know some of the agnostics will actually find that problematic, but yeah, I mean that's them. Okay.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I was following their content. I was listening to the stuff that they were saying.
All right.
I was not talking to Muslims about Islam.
All
I
right.
wasn't talking to the people who I needed to. I was just listening to their garbage 24
Right.
hours a day. And that's important to know for all my brothers and sisters in Islam, because
All right.
most of the people who are afraid of Islam, they're not talking to Muslims, they're not going to mosques, they're not looking at Islamic sources. They're listening to these guys on the internet ramble on and on and on and on about Islam. That is where
All
they're
right.
getting their information from.
All right. All right.
And so I followed their content for a really long time, and which, by the way, all the love and support I've got since I became a Muslim has made me more comfortable to speak.
Alhamdulillah.
If you noticed in my Shahada video, I was pretty nervous speaking
I
to
could see that.
25,000 people.
I could see that you were shaking and
I
you
was
were
nervous
you were a
because
bit unsure. You were a bit unsure what to say, right?
yeah,
I could see that. Yeah.
but I'm becoming more comfortable with speaking now. But anyway, I kind of got off the path.
Yes, of
there.
course, of course. I understand, because it's a very big move for you to say the Shahada, especially, it's a very life-changing experience. Yeah.
Especially in front of thousands of people all over the Muslim world.
Exactly. Yeah, that may be a factor too. Right. Yeah.
And so the whole time I'm thinking, in the back of my head, I'm thinking,
Yes.
how is the Muslim world how well are they gonna receive me, considering my history? And that really bothered me, because I knew that I had a bad history.
No,
I
don't worry
knew that
about
I
it.
was a harsh critic of Islam. I knew that I was an Islamophobe, but I almost was in tears after my Shahada, after all the love and attention and affection that I got from the. I mean, not a single Muslim had held that against me after I said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah.
Alhamdulillah.
Now, and I got curious about Islam while I was afraid of it at the same time. I wanted to know if there was another side to the story.
Yes.
And so I wanted to see why so many people followed the Prophet, peace be upon him, because it was curious to me. I became curious about it, because while I thought Islam was bad at the time, I didn't understand why so many people followed the Prophet. And so I decided to do what most Islamophobes will not do. They refuse to do. I wanted to put aside all my biases. I wanted to put aside any negative connotations or anything that I might have had against Islam, and I wanted to learn about the Prophet from Muslims.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And
brother, sorry to cut you short there, but there's someone here in the backstage by the name of Hunter. He's an atheist. If you have the time, I think he says here in the private chat he wants to that he has a couple of questions. I think if you have the time, do you want to speak to him? It's up to you.
To the atheist?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I can. I mean, I don't know if I can dispel.
He's a fellow American too.
But I mean, I can at least give him my view on it.
Yeah, sure, right. So okay. So I'll bring Hunter on. Okay, but Hunter, please do be respectful to John. All right. Okay. So hello,
Hi,
Hunter.
John.
Hi, good to see you, sir.
Nice to meet you. So I've been listening for the last 20 minutes or something like that, and it's really kind of a fascinating story. So just out of curiosity, I don't know if you mentioned this yet. Just kind of for some backdrop, what form of Islam or what interpretation of the religion do you subscribe to now? I mean, would you call yourself a conservative or a moderate? Or I mean, I know that there's only one religion and so on, but there's a difference of opinion within the religion. So do you take a stance on that?
I really can't pick a stance on that as of yet, because like I said, I'm a brand new Muslim. I mean, and when
He's
I say
still very new. Hunter is still very new. He just recited Shahada last week, so I don't think you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you could. I don't think you could ask him ideological questions yet until he actually understands Islam properly. All right? Yeah.
Well,
what I can tell you is my view of the Prophet and my view of his overall life. If that might clear anything up, if that helps. I mean, I don't.
Well, sure. I guess I was just. I mean, would you? How about this? Would you say that you're in favor of political Islam?
Political. What do you mean by political Islam? Can you be a little more specific?
The basic. I mean, it's mainly a thing in countries in the Arab world today. More or less, I don't know if I could give any examples that would make sense, but more or less the idea that the government of any particular country should be governed under the Sharia, whether that is established through a democratic vote or anything else. Do you think that it should be actual law that runs the government?
Absolutely, unapologetically, yes. And the reason why I say that is, as Muslims, we are required. You see, when we recite the Shahada, when we say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, what we are declaring is that we believe in both the words and the actions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when the Prophet was on earth, and again, I'm a brand new Muslim, maybe MENJ can answer these questions a lot better than I can, but I'll give it my best shot.
Yeah, of course. But I'll let you answer it first. Yeah.
It was his mission, not just to declare the worship of only one God. I mean, that was his primary mission. But it was also how to show human beings how to manage and run a society. Now, I'm sure that when you think of Sharia law, you probably have some negative images of it. Because, I mean, I used to have some negative images of Sharia law. You're probably thinking of bad things like cutting hands and probably bad stuff like that. Is that correct?
Well, I've listened to quite a few, Islamic scholars on YouTube and other places, and they're often asked that question: do you support this? Do you think this should something that should actually be done? Some of them say no, but most of them say yes, and almost always the ones who call themselves conservatives or traditionalists will say yes, this should be carried out. And historically, you can say it was rare. But it was carried out historically.
Well, we have to first, here's how I would respond to that. We first have to look at the time period when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually lived and the conditions surrounding the area and the times when he first started his mission. As a Muslim, I declare unapologetically that the Quran is universal, that it's eternal. But that doesn't mean that, you see, when you talk about Sharia law, we also have what's called Sharia courts in Sharia law. We have Sharia judges, and a Sharia judge determines whether or not, like, for example, if there is a Sharia punishment for theft or adultery or whatever it may be, should be applied or not. And if somebody is, let me give you an example, if somebody is mentally ill, or if they are otherwise not in control of their actions, then certain punishments under Sharia would not apply. But Sharia law just doesn't encompass the penal code. That's only one part of Sharia law. it also encompasses family law, economics. Islam for us as Muslims is a complete way of life. It's not just, if you will, I mean, religion is, and our belief in Tawheed and one God is the biggest part of that.
Sorry about that.
But it was Muhammad's mission to, peace be upon him, it was his mission to show human beings how to govern a society as a whole. And now, part of the reasons that I accepted Islam was, and like you said, you've been listening for the last 20 or 30 minutes, their ability to hold on to the family unit is superior to all others, in my view. And that's a big thing for me. Now we as human beings are imperfect, but I've noticed that in Muslim countries, they are really big on keeping and maintaining the family unit and not letting their culture, their way of life disappear over time. Whereas here in the West, and again, this is just my view, I've noticed that that morality has really declined over the years here, and immorality is steadily increased. And but again, I'm a brand new Muslim, so MENJ is more qualified to talk about these things than I am. But let me just try to dispel, a little bit of that fear you may have over Sharia. Okay, most of Sharia, it does not involve the penal code. It doesn't involve the bad stuff you may hear about it. Most of the word Sharia in Arabic, if I'm not mistaken, means oasis, and so it's simply meant as guidance for human beings to solve certain problems. And MENJ, I'll let you go ahead and take over if you want. I think
that was, I'm really glad you brought that up. Okay, so you mentioned the family unit and immorality and all of that, because this is actually kind of what I wanted to talk about. And I'm not trying to be in a confrontational way so much as this is interesting way. Earlier on, you were talking about how when you were originally a Islamophobe, I think that is the term you used. It was in the aftermath of 9/11 and the context of the war on terror, right? So I guess one more question to you, just real briefly. In the context of the U.S. and American Western culture, would you consider yourself a social conservative?
To be honest with you, I really don't have any idea what that means. I mean,
okay, well, if I could just give you a few things, like, okay, you think gay marriage should not be allowed, right? Abortion should not be allowed. All drugs should be illegal. Pornography should be illegal. Those are a few things that I can think of at the top of my head that would be kind of general social conservative positions.
I would say yes, those things should not be, in most circumstances, should not be allowed. Now, in terms of abortion, I mean, I think if a woman is a victim of sexual assault, or like, if she might die or something like that, then I don't think any reasonable person would expect that woman to go through that pregnancy. Okay. But what else did you mention? You mentioned drugs. I definitely think that illegal drugs should not be a part of our society. I think as somebody who grew up in a compulsive alcoholic household where his father and mother had extreme problems with drugs and alcohol, and plus as a former correctional officer who worked in a prison for the better part of 5 years before I became a truck driver, I can, just my opinion, not just as a Muslim, but as an American, I don't see the benefit, I guess, of allowing alcohol and illegal drugs into a society. Now, of course, as Americans, we're all entitled to our opinion, but I'm just saying my opinion is, I think, let's just take alcohol, for example. How many DUIs do we have in this country? How many domestic violences as a result of alcohol do we have in this country? I I don't know, fights outside of bars, and I
Sure.
just it's been my experience that when you put alcohol in people, only bad things can happen most of the time. Now, that's not to say, um, that some people might have alcohol and they may not act that way. I mean, maybe not. But overall, I don't like alcohol in our society because of the bad stuff that it produces. Same with drugs.
Okay.
But you mentioned a couple other things there. You mentioned abortion. You mentioned alcohol. Homosexuals getting married. Well, I think, as a Muslim, I'm going to say no, they should not get married. But, people are going to do what they're going to do. I don't think we should have, cameras in people's houses
Okay, but in public places, you think it should not be allowed for anyone to display homosexual affection or, live an openly homosexual lifestyle. That should not be allowed, right?
No, I just don't. I don't think that people, I mean, when you say homosexual, well, hang on, man. Let me back up a second. When you say homosexual display of affection, what does that mean exactly?
Kissing, holding hands, introducing each other as is my boyfriend in public, that sort of thing. Having pride parades.
I just don't think that's appropriate. I mean,
okay.
and I would even go as far as saying, man and a woman, kissing in public. I just don't think that's appropriate.
Okay.
I mean, now do I think that they should be flogged or bad stuff happen to them for that? No, but
it should be something they could get a ticket for, maybe, or the police will just force them to stop, break up a pride parade if it's being held. Not like in a brutal way, just in a maintenance of public order way, right?
I would say they should be given a warning at first, saying, hey, because if you have kids around, and and again, this goes more than to just my religious faith.
Yeah, that was exactly my point, actually.
If you have kids around, I just don't like the idea of two men or a man and a woman or two grown adults kissing or touching each other in front of children or families. I mean, if they have feelings for each other, great. But I guess I just don't see how that benefits a society.
Okay, so just in a purely descriptive way, I would say that's a generally very socially conservative set of beliefs within the context of the United States. And what I was going to try to get at is this, that I think is so interesting. So a little bit, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about myself, but as far as how I became a Islamophobe, if we want to call it that, when I was a little kid in the early mid 2000s, the main experience that I had with Islam is, I thought that the whole war on terror thing was largely an overreaction. I hated George W. Bush absolutely with a passion. I considered him like, the equivalent of the devil, because both of my parents were non-religious people. So I'm sure that's not surprising. We thought, oh, these horrible, Christians, they want to force all of this stuff down our throat. And they're just, they're being so cruel to these people out in the Middle East. They're, bombing children and blah, blah, blah. And, I can't believe that they've started all this. So, and it was kind of crazy actually being in a high school in Texas back in the mid to late 2000s. I guess this would be about 2010 or something like that. Yeah, 2009, 2010, when I was finishing up high school. I was one of the. Oops, did I get kicked off?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. The thing. Yeah. Okay, thanks. That's great. That's better.
Sorry,
I was one of the only ones. I was one of the only ones who would say that, wow, it's Israel is horrible. They're run by this bunch of militaristic war hawk, blah blah blah. And so I was pretty much. I would never say I had a positive impression of Islam in general, but it was way in. on my peripheral vision in terms of religions that I was worried about or religious groups that I was afraid about. I was always afraid of the fundamentalist Christians, and I feel like everyone who I knew who was more or less on the political left pretty much felt the same way. That we never, Islam was never really on our radar. We were concerned about conservative Christians forcing such and so on us. Mm-hmm. And then tell me if this seems like it's something that you've experienced as well. Then things have been really changing a lot over the last 10 years. And it's actually at the point where things are flipping. Everything, I think it's the general political, religious mindset and conflict is actually flipping over 180 degrees. Because after 2015, what got me to start really being concerned about Islam and to become an Islamophobe, I guess you would say, was the Charlie Hebdo attacks in 2015. And following that, I mean, it felt like there was just, it feels like there's been a kind of a string of things that have been happening since then. There was the teacher beheading, or, just last year we had Salman Rushdie being stabbed on stage. We had, the gay nightclub was shot up, and then we started having all of these issues with people coming into Europe, and there was this new intense culture war there, where the secular European culture was kind of running up against the traditionalist culture of these immigrants coming in. And all of a sudden, tell me if you think that this has a ring of truth to it, that the main conflict now that Muslims and Islam has in the West is with socially liberal, culturally liberal people, and that the conflict that they had of the right-wing Christian Islamophobe, that's pretty much history now. And that, in fact, if you look at these, very far right-wing parts of the internet and very far right-wing, the alt-right, as they call them, a lot of them are actually embracing Islam. And they're saying that, Islam is going to be the solution to all of this degeneracy in our Western countries, with all of the, gays and transgenders and, pornography, blah, 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 drugs, et cetera, et cetera. So do you think that, do you feel like that sort of a similar thing is happening, that it used to be in the West, a matter of the political right being focused on opposing to Islam and then running up against Islam, and now it's kind of flipped over to where now the conflict is between the political left in Western countries and Islam, that is the main conflict now?
Okay, so I'm going to try to, I understand what you're saying, but I kind of want to see if I can maybe simplify it. Are you implying that people on the right are embracing Islam because they don't like people on the left? I mean, is that what you're getting at?
There's a few cases of that happening. That wasn't really my main point, but the fact that there's even a relatively small number of cases of that happening, I think, is really interesting. Like, you see, the example of Andrew Tate. He's probably the most visible. He's not the only one, but he's probably the most visible example of this happening, of a extremely far right-wing individual who has embraced, who converted to Islam and has outright said that the reason that he did that is because it's a strong religion, because it's the most against, all of this degeneracy or whatever you want to call it in the West, and so on.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for Andrew Tate. I don't really know a lot about the man. I don't know, his reasons for why he embraced Islam. I also don't know a lot about the allegations against him, so I really can't speak to that. As far as the right embracing Islam because they want to fight the political left, me personally, I don't see that. I mean, Islam right now in the United States, last I checked, makes up about 1% of the entire population. And I guess I don't really have any way to judge if whether or not that's true or not. I mean, I guess I don't have any data. I don't have anything that could definitively point to that being the case. I mean, all I can do is share with you why I embrace embraced Islam, and then, you know, if people accept that or not, then, you know, then I guess that's on them.
Okay,
but I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions for why I embraced Islam, and I think
sure.
I'm trying to do that to the best of my ability. And again, I'm a brand new Muslim, so I mean, like, I'm starting my first new Muslim training class tomorrow. Now, if it makes you feel any better, I don't want to see any gays killed in the United States. I mean, I don't want to, you know, I don't want any Salman Rushdie type incidents to occur. I just want to be able to practice my religion without any harassment, you know, or any backlash from people who would otherwise not like my choice to convert to my faith. And I have to tell you, with my respect to you, I haven't got any negative attention from people on the left since I decided to embrace Islam. Most of the attention that I've got, believe it or not, is from people on the right. And Brother MENJ can tell you, because me and him have been talking about this, I've had people on the right who don't even know me, don't know anything about me, have already assumed that they've called me things like terrorist, and, you know, and ISIS, and, you know, you follow a murderer and this and that and blah 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 blah. I haven't had any negative responses from the left. It's mostly from people on the right, and you know, people can say what they want, but what's very telling to me is what I was telling Brother MENJ earlier. People who make these claims about Muslims and about the Prophet of Islam and about Islam itself, they don't want to go to a mosque. They don't want to speak with actual Muslims face to face. They don't want to actually read the Islamic sources. I mean, they just, you know, they'll see a video on YouTube or something, or, you know, they'll get on Google and they'll see an article of a terrorist attack, and then all of a sudden that wants to encompass all of Islam. And the reason I know that is because I used to think that way as an Islamophobe. But since that time, from reading the Quran and seeing who the Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, was, and I hope that I can share with you a little bit of what I've learned about Islam from actual Islamic sources in the Quran. The Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, tried for 13 years to just preach his religion peacefully in Mecca, but every time he tried to do that, he was met with hostility and violence by the Quraysh. The Quraysh tribe were pagans. They worshipped many gods. He tried everything under the sun to make peace with them, and it wasn't until 13 years after he was driven out of his home with his Sahaba, his companions, is our belief that finally, after 13 years, was he finally given permission to defend himself. And then that's when you see the violence in the Quran. But the context is what matters here. Now, are there terrorist attacks today that are committed by Muslims? You know, yes. But at the same time, I think it's an issue of interpretation. How are they interpreting the Sunnah, the Quran, the Hadith? You know, Islam is not different from any other religion in the sense that we have different interpretations, we have different schools of thought, we have different ways of looking at our religious text. But you know, but I'm an American. I've lived here for 4 decades. I don't want to see any bad things happen to anybody who's on the left, right, or anything, you know, simply because, you know, that they're not a Muslim, if that makes you feel any better. But, you know, I guess that's all I can, you know, say for now. I mean, you know,
Do
I
you
hope
think, do you think in general that the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights is too permissive and too individualistic and too liberal? Because under the, I mean, I think, you know, you would know living here that under the American Constitution, to give an example, it would be utterly impossible to pass a law against blasphemy, or to pass a law against showing the picture of Muhammad or insulting him or doing anything like that. So do you think that that's in general a good thing or a bad thing?
Do I think it's a good thing that the Constitution protects freedom of speech, to where if people want to, you know, say certain things about the Prophet of Islam, that they should be allowed to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, you know, the Constitution says what it says, you know.
Okay. So you don't think that there should be laws against insulting or depicting or drawing a cartoon of Muhammad?
I don't think there should be any laws in this country.
In this country?
Yeah, in this country, no. I mean, if you live in the United
but there
States,
should be in other countries.
Well, I mean, I think if you're going to go to Muslim lands, you shouldn't be insulting the Prophet of Islam. And, you know, I mean, because obviously, look, here's what I want you to understand, okay? The Prophet of Islam, to us as Muslims, we love that. We love him more than our own parents, more than people closest to us. So, I mean, if you want to insult the Prophet of Islam here in the United States, you know, have at it. But, you know, I wouldn't recommend doing that in a Muslim nation. You go to Muslim nations and do that. No, you shouldn't be allowed to do that in a Muslim nation. Not for 1 second. And here's what, and I can't help but notice too, you know, and this is, I mean, should you be able to say whatever you want in the United States? Yeah, but does that mean you should? And that's another reason why I embrace the faith of Islam, because I've noticed something in our culture here today. Nothing is sacred here anymore. Nothing. You know, you can insult Jesus, you can insult any religious leader you want, say the most awful things about just anybody or anything, and without any consequences. And, you know, hey, I've got no problem with that if you live in the United States. But at the same time, I think the consequences from that is further contributing to the moral decay here in society. So if you want to say that stuff about the Prophet of Islam in the United States, you know, it is the law. You are free to do that. But I don't want you saying that stuff in Muslim lands. And, you know, I mean, to me, it'd be like, I don't know. Let me just give you an example. I mean, if I have the right to say something really bad about your mother or your father, you know, or your children or whatever, just because I may have the legal right to do that, does that mean I should? I mean, I wouldn't come to your
it
house,
depends.
you know,
If my mom or my dad is a political leader and is the representative for a political ideology, I may not like it, but I would say it's pretty fair and pretty expected for you to say really nasty, vitriolic things about them, because that's what you get when you enter the arena of public policy and government.
And I understand that, and I agree with you. But let me put this another way. You know, when you look at the political division in America today, and I'm not saying this as a Muslim to an atheist or whatever, I'm saying this as an American to an American. Don't you think part of the problem why America is so divided today is because people can just say and utter the most grotesque things about each other with little to no consequence? I mean, I don't know, just a thought.
With little to no consequence? I don't know about that. I think that a lot of people on the right are really concerned, and frankly, I sometimes agree with them, about something called cancel culture. I mean, do you think cancel culture is a good thing?
Cancel culture. What? Okay, define for me cancel culture, if you would.
Basically,
you have to forgive me.
Sure.
Ever since I've embraced the faith of Islam, I really haven't cared about American politics anymore. I mean, and I'm not saying that you don't have to. I'm just, if you want to, that's your prerogative. But as far as American politics goes, I really don't care that much anymore. But go ahead and
okay, basically the idea.
What is
you've heard the term, right? You've heard the term, right?
I've heard the term. I just can't remember exactly how it's defined.
So basically, that's when people who state an unpopular political belief or a controversial political belief on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, things like that. Basically, as a result of that, people will start pressuring their employers to fire them. They'll start. Okay, so let me give you an example. There was a guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it was a fairly high up executive in James Damore. James Damore is what his name was. I think it was Google. Yeah, it was Google. So a fairly high up guy in Google, and I forget exactly what he said. It was something about women. I think he said that it was something anti-feminism. Oh yeah, okay. So it was basically he was complaining that Google had gone too far in promoting feminism, that it was, you know, creating a hostile work environment towards men. And he said in general that women, you know, that there were too many women in the workplace, that kind of stuff. And as a result of that, people complained to Google, and this is not something he wrote as part of on the company website or anything like that. This is something he wrote in a private capacity with no relation to the company whatsoever, and they got him fired for that. And that's only one example. There's lots of examples of this happening, of people who say something about, you know, I mean, it's usually the left that does this, and I'm really critical of them. Although the right has started getting in on the act as well. Basically, where someone expresses an unpopular belief and everyone tries to get them fired, they try to get, you know, any kind of consequences done to them in their personal life.
And you see, that's what I'm saying, my friend. I mean, look, I was raised here just like you. And up until before I converted to Islam, I used to be all for being able to say whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, you know. But I'll be honest with you, since I embraced the faith of Islam, that's changed, and I'll explain why. For the most part, I still think that people should be able to have discussions and debates, you know, about political issues and whatever, even if those issues may be considered offensive. The problem is civility has just broken down so bad in this country now, you know, that contribute to the things that you just said, you know, with that example you just gave me, that I've really started to wonder if maybe freedom of speech laws should be re-examined. I'll just put it that way. I'm not saying they should be done away with, but maybe they should be re-examined. Because the problem is when you have people who can just say whatever they want, however they want, whenever they want, nothing is sacred. Everything goes. You can just burn down culture, traditions, a society with little or no consequences for that. And so I don't know. I really don't know where I'm going to go from here with freedom of speech and all of that. And I'm genuinely concerned right now for this country and where it's going. I mean, there's just nothing is sacred, and I don't know, my friend. And so I really don't know what to tell you. On one hand, I like the idea of people being able to speak freely, but on the other hand, I think that it's gotten so out of control that I don't know. I don't really know what the answer is in regards to that. But I hope that answer was satisfactory. I mean, I'm not saying you should agree with me, but maybe you can understand at least my point of view, perhaps. I don't know.
Okay, well, I was going to respond to that person who made the tweet, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so I would say that the thing, you know, I mean, you talked about, you know, Islamophobia. Here's the thing. I guess I don't want to tie you up forever, but maybe this will be my last point. You were talking about Islamophobia. You think in general Islamophobia, and I don't even like that word, if I'm being honest. I don't like that word at all. Because I think it's used to shut down anyone who has anything critical to say about the religion whatsoever. But okay, for the moment, we'll take it as a given. You said that you think a lot of Islamophobia or antipathy towards Islam is driven by people not understanding it, not listening to what they say. And I'm going to be
Well,
honest with you, my friend.
to be clear, when I use that word, because I agree with you that word has been used for that purpose. But the reason I'm using that word is, I don't know, for a lack of a better term, maybe a better word, maybe a fear of Islam. Maybe that's a better
Fear
word.
of Islam. Okay, sure. Good. That's a good term. I think that's I think a pretty uncontroversial term that I think we could all agree on. So you're saying that a lot of people have that fear of Islam because they don't listen to what Muslims themselves are saying, because they don't talk to Muslims, because they don't interact with them, because they don't pay attention to what it actually is. But I'm saying that from the perspective of someone who, I know I'm not religious, so I can't say that this is my religion, but it's from the perspective of someone who deeply, deeply believes in the inviolable principle of freedom of speech, free expression, free association, and the marketplace of ideas. If I'm being frankly, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, over the last few years, the more that I've listened to what conservative Islamic scholars say, or just conservative Islamic, Muslim figures in general, Daniel Hakikachu, Asim al-Hakim, Zakir Naik, what's that guy? The guy who does a YouTube channel. Anyway, the more that I've listened, Yasir Kadhi, the more that I have listened to these guys, and the more that I have listened in detail to what they say and what they explain, the more afraid of Islam I've become.
I think I need to interject here, Hunter. For those individuals that you mentioned, I think I would be the more suited person to answer that instead of Brother John, actually.
Sure.
Yeah. But never mind. Now, just let you continue.
Oh, that's all I was going to say. I'm saying that I'm not sure that people listening more to it is going to make them less.
We can talk about it after Brother John leaves the show.
Sure.
If Brother John, I think
I want to see if he has anything to say.
If Brother John, sure. If Brother John wants to say anything before he leaves, I think, brother, it's up to you if you want to stay or otherwise.
No, but I think Hunter's been fair. He's had some tough questions, and and that's fine.
I've been a little antagonistic. I do apologize.
No,
it's hard
I mean, really, it's fine. I expect that I'm going to get tough questions like that from time to time. But even though I have accepted Islam, I'm still an American, and let me just say that most Muslims don't think the same. What I may think should be done in regards to blasphemy laws and a lot of the things you just mentioned may be different than what a Muslim, another Muslim in another country or whatever may think. I think part of the problem, as I see it, with respect to a fear of Islam is it seems as if there's this underlying stigma that all Muslims think and believe the same, and it's not true. One thing I will tell you, Hunter, is that and I'll give you, I guess you could say I'm more of a westernized Muslim. I've never lived in the Middle East. I've never lived in some of these other countries, but so I would prefer that you don't say negative comments about the Prophet. You live in the United States, so it's your legal right to do so. But I guess I don't know. I'm really concerned about where the country is at with just how crazy the rhetoric is getting and all of that. And so I don't know. I think maybe freedom of speech, as far as it goes, should be re-examined over whether I don't know if it should be unrestricted or what should be able to be said or not. But as for being in Muslim lands, I don't think you should be able to go to Muslim lands and say anything bad about the Prophet. That those are sacred lands, and that's just how I feel about it. And if we don't agree, I guess we don't agree. But I appreciate the conversation. But brother,
likewise.
All right.
Right.
But brother Menj, I actually have to
Yeah.
get going here because I have a
Of course. Of course.
I
Of course.
have a class tomorrow at noon.
Right. Understood.
But I really enjoyed this, and
Yes, of course. Yeah, and then don't forget we have our interview later on, right? It's still
Yeah.
on, right?
yeah, I'll send you an email just now. I'll
All
send
right.
you an email.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Thanks for
All
the
right,
conversation, John.
All right, thank you.
So I'll see you. Right. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So thank you, brother John Peterson, for that conversation. And yeah, so I guess it's just the two of us now, Hunter.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to say, I'm so glad he brought that up, that not all Muslims think the same, because I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely think it's true. And I have some, I've said some pretty spicy things, especially on Twitter. Something about Twitter tends to make people kind of more antagonistic, I think. But
I'm not active on Twitter because I think Twitter is such a shit fest of nonsense and vile comment and hatred. And not just I'm not just speaking in the context of the United States, but also in my country as well. People here in Malaysia are just using it as a tool to mudsling each other, and that's one of the reasons why I just stay away from Twitter. Yeah.
But there are definitely some Islamic scholars who I have a generally positive view of. I mean, I wouldn't say that I agree with them on everything or even in general, but just that, I look out there and I'm saying, okay, well, I'm glad people like this exist. They show that. Yeah, I'm not sure if they're ones that you would approve of. Like, for example, I'm a big fan of Ilhan Omar, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. I think she's great.
She's a liberal. She's a liberal by my standards, all right?
Right. So I mean, liberal Muslims are general. I mean, I think there's a lot of them. I don't know if they're the majority. They might be.
Fortunately,
they
are not.
Are actually.
Fortunately,
in the United States, they are. Globally, absolutely
not. Well, I'm not in the United States, so but fortunately, they are not the majority. All right.
Okay. And Shabir Ali, are you familiar with him at all? I'm actually curious about what your opinion on him is. What's your
I think most of the Muslim names that you mentioned, I would know of them already. Like the names that you mentioned just now, all of them I know. Okay. Yeah, I've been in this field for a very long time, Hunter. So I should know most of the figures that you mentioned. Yeah.
What's your opinion on Dr. Shabir Ali?
Shabir Ali,
pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, I think he's fine. He's okay. There are some views of him concerning Jesus, which I find problematic with regards to the Quranic interpretation. But other than that, I'm okay with him. Yeah.
Okay. And okay. Well, did you have some thoughts on those ones those ones that I've mentioned are ones who I find. Now, if I'm talking about Daniel Hikachu, I definitely have respect for him. He's a very smart guy. Honestly, I think he's a lot smarter than a lot of the people in that space. There's some guys. Yeah, there's some. I mean, he went to Harvard. Obviously, he's not a smart guy. That being said, he is a smart guy. That being said, I find him like really scary. Like, I'm honestly kind of terrified when I listen to his beliefs. I know. Well, I don't. Okay. Well, there's a lot that you agree with.
What he says is pretty much standard, traditionalist views. Of course, there are things which I don't agree with him, but most of them I don't find them problematic at all. And I know that maybe there may be some things which are controversial and which actually, may offend certain American sensibilities. But other than that, I don't think he's offensive at all. But anyway, by the way, we have Brother Muhammad from Kof FF channel. I don't know. He suddenly appeared on my on my stream here, so I'm going to bring him on. All right. He's from the UK, by the way. Yeah. So maybe he wants to talk.
And I don't want to take up your whole show, so I can.
No. Don't go off just yet, because I want to talk to you about those figures that you mentioned earlier, actually. But I just want to bring him on. All right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi guys. Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, brothers? How's everything?
Salam. Brother Muhammad. Yes. So you pop up on my show. Mashallah.
Yeah, I'm just driving to work, and I was listening to this discussion. It was one of the best discussions I've heard on on this type of platform. And this is what we need. And it was the manners, how both of the interlocutors kind of like spoke to each other, and that was beautiful. And this is what we need. It was one of the I was watching as I was driving to work, and typical UK weather. It's raining, it's windy, it's dark, and it's like 7:30 a.m. here in the morning here in the UK. But yeah, I just want to say that was a fantastic All right, okay. That was a fantastic discussion. And yeah, that's the reason I kind of jumped on for a short while. I learned a lot from both of you guys there, Hunter and the other brother. I forgot his
John
name now.
Peterson. John
Yeah,
Peterson.
very good discussion, and this is how we should discuss and dialogue with
Yes,
with each other in
I
this
agree.
type of beautiful manner. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Definitely.
Well,
Most
I'm
welcome,
flattered.
of course.
Thank you. I think
Yes,
MENJ is a good host. I think he's a great host. I've
thank
been on
you.
a couple of
Thank you.
these. It's partially my fault. I've been on a couple of these before where the discussion really didn't go so well, and it just kind of devolved into a shouting match. I think he's really good at avoiding, just stating the facts calmly
Yeah.
and in a
Maybe
thoughtful
because
way.
I'm Malaysian, so in Malaysia we have a bit of we have some sensibilities that the Asian culture is such that we have to be accommodating. Maybe that's the reason. Even though I'm American born, unfortunately I don't have any American values in me. I'm more of a Malaysian than an American, unfortunately. But I don't know. Okay.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Mashallah. I just
Yes.
came on
Right.
just to
Yes.
compliment you guys.
All right.
Excellent
All right,
show.
brother.
Mashallah.
Yeah. Anything
Okay.
anything else you want to share, Aki?
No,
Anything else?
nothing. Jazakallah khair. Thank you,
Uh,
brother. Keep up the great work
Mayakum.
and
Aki, if you
Assalamu
have any
alaikum.
live shows, yes. Anyway, if you have any live shows, do let me know and I'll come onto your show. All right.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, Hunter's welcome to come on my channel. My channel's
Yes.
CovFF.
Love FF.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so
That's
and I'm just like on the same mindset as our brother here as hosting. We don't let people shout. We don't let people use abusive language. We have discussions and we shake hands and then we just walk away. And that's
yes.
how it
That's right.
should be done. Yeah. So
That's right.
you always feel free to come on CovFF at any time. I've got some streams coming up
Sure.
soon.
I think
So
I'll look into that. That'd be
thank you,
interesting.
brother. Thank you. Have a good day,
Right.
guys, wherever you are.
Right.
Assalamu
Right.
alaikum.
Okay. Yeah. Walaikum salam warahmatullah. Yes. 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 So yeah. I guess thank you, brother Muhammad from Kof FF channel from the UK. Yeah. So yeah, where were we just now, Hunter?
You were talking about some of the conservative religious scholars and figures.
Yeah, I think
Some of them aren't
yes,
scholars, but figures.
yeah, I think you were talking about Daniel Hagikaju specifically. So what are the things that you find problematic about Daniel? With all due respect to him.
Wow, where to begin? I mean, he supports the Taliban, for starters. That kind of encapsulates a lot of it. He said
Define
he actually
support-
said for a
yeah,
while.
yeah,
He, for a while,
yeah,
he said he was.
define- Yeah,
He said
define
he was
support
going
for the
to go.
Taliban.
He said he was going to go and join them for a little while.
He did?
last year.
Did he?
Yeah.
I've never come
Yeah.
across that.
He went. He changed his mind, but he said that he was planning on moving to Afghanistan to live under the Taliban and pretty much to to support
I've
them.
never come.
however he
To be
could.
honest, I've never come across that, so I don't know. Maybe he meant it as a joke. I don't know because there were
Okay.
a lot of people who were pressuring him on that. Yeah.
Okay,
I
and
don't
so there's
recall
some
him
things-
saying this. Yeah.
And I mean, I could go for the low-hanging fruit, like the fact that last year during the first day of Gay Pride Month, he said, let's celebrate Gay Pride Month the Muslim way with recreational base jumping. And he showed a picture of someone, jumping off a building. I think we can be pretty clear what he meant by that, right?
Maybe he meant it as a very crude joke, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
yeah, he meant it. He meant it as a
wouldn't-
very crude joke. He meant it as a
I
very
wouldn't,
crude joke about
I
killing
wouldn't.
gay men by throwing
Honestly,
them
I
off
wouldn't.
roofs.
I wouldn't. Honestly, I wouldn't agree with that. But I don't know
Yeah,
in the context of America.
I know you
wouldn't
wouldn't.
know.
I know you wouldn't. I'm
Yeah,
not saying you
yeah.
would. That's why I said it's
Mm.
low-hanging fruit. So that's the
Okay,
low-hanging
right.
fruit. Everyone make crude jokes or something like that. Sometimes,
Yes,
right?
yes. I think as
He's
as brother
also
John.
said,
This actually reminds me of what brother John Peterson said about your situation in American society. Nothing is secret anymore. Anything can say whatever they want, however they want, and not without any consequences whatsoever. So maybe this is one of those consequences. You see? So yeah. So
Okay,
this is
so
how
to give-
this is how your society works. So in Malaysia we don't have this. Of course, you can't. I mean, you can't simply make jokes like that.
so
Okay, not even against people. So yeah.
let me see. I think I have it saved. I think I have it as an actual quote saved here. Here it is. Okay, so and this was from just a couple months ago. So this is very recent. I'm not sure if I can drag and drop things onto here. I can just read you a quote. This is a quote.
You can click on the icon called present and then you can share your
Okay.
screen from there.
We're
Yeah.
present. Okay. Yeah. So how long did let's see.
Yeah, I'll approve it. Don't worry. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a quote from him from, I believe, November or sometime like that. And it's having to do with women's education and women going to college. Okay, so let me see. Okay, present. And then, you know what? This is kind of taking too long. It's just a quote from his Telegram. Basically, I'll read it to you. He says, if you say yes to college for women, you're essentially saying yes to your granddaughter on OnlyFans. The college to OnlyFans societal pipeline is just a mere matter of decades. So and that's in the context of the Taliban banning women's education. So he thinks women shouldn't be able to go to college.
Sorry, I don't agree with Daniel on that. I mean, in that sense, I don't agree with him on that, because he has said many times that he doesn't encourage women to go to college. He doesn't encourage wives to work. They should stay at home, feed the family, take care of the household. I don't ascribe to those. Okay.
Yeah.
In our Malaysian culture, we believe that the woman should be part of the workforce as well. And we do strongly believe that women should be educated. Okay. So, like, for example, I have 4 sisters. Okay. I have 4 sisters. All of them are educated. All of them are married. All of them are working. Okay.
That's wonderful.
None of them are staying at home. All right. None of them are staying at home. We don't practice this. Okay. Only my mom is staying at home. She's a full-time housewife now. And that is only because she's a retired teacher. Okay. She was an educator for over 30 years plus before she retired. Okay. So because she doesn't want to work, and also she made the choice not to work anymore, and she wants to stay at home and become a full-time housewife, and that's it. But generally, this is across the board in Malaysia. Okay, nearly all women I know are working. Okay, of course there are those who choose to be housewives out of their own choice, not because they were not educated or anything of the sort. Like, for example, I have an aunt who has a degree. Okay, she has a degree in I think it was in education. It was an education degree or something like this, or for the sort. But she chose to be a housewife. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't.
Exactly.
Some of the left in America, is bad about that.
But I don't agree at all with what Daniel said about women not needing to be educated.
So
that's
another
totally
thing that
against my even against my views, against even Islam itself. To me, that's against even Islam. Okay.
And the other thing that comes to mind is he made a video about offensive jihad, and that as soon as a caliphate is and of course he supports the establishment of a caliphate, that as soon as a caliphate is established, then it should, at the earliest possible opportunity, pursue war against any nations that are ruled by kufr, which are on its borders, and give people there the choice to submit to Islamic, not conversion at the point of the sword. He's never said that. I don't want to misrepresent him, but basically impose Islamic law on the government there, put Muslim rulers in charge, and give people there the choice to either pay the jizya or or die, I guess, or become enslaved, or whatever happens if they fight and lose. Because he is in favor of slavery as well. So that's another area where I'm kind of scared of him.
Yeah, I think I did mention that. I think I did mention before that I have no problems with slavery, but with regards to the issue of the khilafah, I guess me and I would agree. I mean, me and him would agree on that point. Me and Daniel we both would agree on that the Khalifa should be established. But I don't agree with him saying that once the Khilafah is established, the Khilafah should go out and conquer the rest of the world and force others to submit to this government. No, I don't believe that. I only believe that the Muslim world should be united under one Khilafah and under one ruler, and Islamic law should be promoted and escalated throughout the lands, and we should govern ourselves in freedom and peace from any external influences. That's it. It stops there. I mean, nothing. War and conquering doesn't feature into this narrative. Okay.
I posted a link to the video where he says that, by the way, because I don't want to, say like I'm putting words in his mouth or anything. And anyway,
okay, I'll check out
okay.
I'll check out that video later.
So I don't want to take up too much of your show here, but there was one other thing, and maybe we can kind of put this off for a future discussion that I was curious about.
Sure.
What is your opinion, in Islamic history of the let me see if I'm pronouncing this correctly. The Mutazila. Am I saying that correctly?
Mu'tazila. Yeah.
Mutazila.
So
What's your opinion on them?
Yeah, they are a heretical sect that were pretty much gone by the time the Abbasid caliphs realized their mistake. Yeah.
Okay, heretical. So that's a strong word. You're of the opinion that they had taken themselves out of Islam, that they were disbelievers.
They are disbelievers, yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are heterodox sect, okay? And they propose several things which goes against what we were taught in the Quran and the Sunnah. Yeah,
I'm not going to lie. Reading back on history, I've often thought, wow, why couldn't these have been the guys who ended up being in charge instead of Ibn Taymiyyah? Are you a fan of Ibn Taymiyyah? Do you generally agree with
Islam Ibn Taymiyyah? Of course. I subscribe to his teachings somewhat.
So, from a liberal perspective, I understand this is not what you agree with, but from a liberal perspective, looking at Islamic history, it's kind of we tend to, and I've heard Neil deGrasse Tyson specifically say this, and he got a lot of criticism for it, that Ibn Taymiyyah is exactly when everything started to go wrong, and that's what led us to all these problems that we have today, and what led to the decay, the slow decay, and the problems with the Ottoman Empire.
No, I would disagree with that, because Ibn Taymiyyah was the one who reformed the system, and he purified the religion, and in fact Islam became greater after that. The decline came much later, much later.
When that's actually a really interesting question. When would you say the decline? Either it's hard to say when it began. When would you say that the decline really accelerated, or that it became
around the end of the Ottoman Empire, around the time
when they were trying to the Young Turks, around that era?
Around the time when T.E. Lawrence started to incite the Arabs to revolt against the Ottoman government. So that was
like 1890s through the 1920s, roughly.
Maybe slightly earlier than that, because by that time there was corruption in the Ottoman Caliphate, and there were a lot of issues with how they were looking at things. And even those people who they were ruling over, they were not happy with how the Ottomans were treating them. So that was where the decline started. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
interesting. Okay, so you think that in general, the Ottoman Empire in, let's say, the 1600s and 1700s, you think it was generally that was still, would you call that during a golden age, or would you say it's just kind of doing okay around that time?
It was doing okay, and then it was starting to decline. Okay, I would say the last Sultan whom I would probably respect in the Ottoman Empire would be the Sultan Abdul Hamid II. Yeah, that was right before the First World War, right? So yeah.
Oh, this time. Really? You're a fan? Didn't he commit genocide against the Armenians?
No, he did not. No, I don't believe that the Armenian genocide was something which he ordered. Okay, he did not order it. It was the Young Turks who ordered it. Okay.
They were called the Hamidian genocides. Hold on. The Hamidian massacre.
I know.
You go on Wikipedia. They call it the Hamidian massacre.
I know about it. Yes, I know. I'm pretty much aware of this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to start a whole historical debate.
Oh, by the way, we have a question from. You don't mind me reading this, because he's a paid member, so he needs to. I need to actually accommodate him. Okay. He has a question for you. I have this question for Hunter. Okay. Let me read the question. Right. You have been joining Islamic live streams. I think that's what you meant. What is the outcome that you are looking for? Are you looking to potentially becoming a Muslim, or do you have anything else? Inshallah. Yeah.
No, I don't have any consideration to joining the Islamic religion at this time. I would say I'm mostly coming on for stimulating intellectual discussion, and I guess if I'm being honest, maybe a little bit of catharsis that everyone is looking for through, debate. You want to make you want to feel like your views are being heard and are being valid. And I guess my main goal is pretty much to, I guess, come on and present as best I can the ideas of the liberal worldview and ask questions that can maybe bring out interesting thoughts from that perspective.
Fair enough. Yeah, because
I don't have delusions that I've got to come on here and convince people to convert.
I don't do my live streams to convert people too, by the way. I'm not Hamza's Den, I'm not EF Dawa, I'm not SC Dawa, I'm the Muslim apologist. As my name says, I'm into apologetics. As you know, apologetics means in defense of or to promote a certain view, or etc. So I come here, I do these live streams to defend my view. I don't come here to impose my view. There's a difference, right?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the question, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
I guess I have one more question. Sure. If the Ottoman Empire, you said it was kind of slowly starting to decline. Yes. Why do you think the Ottoman Empire started to decline?
Mostly because of they started to disobey God's laws, and they started to become more liberal. Okay, in that sense. Okay, they started to not enforce any of the laws in the Quran, and I think they were trying to become. Maybe they were trying to modernize themselves, but they were looking at it the long way, and at the same time, they were also slow in adapting to modern or contemporary needs at the time. Okay, other countries were already catching up to technology and science. They were still debating on whether they should have a printer to print copies of the Quran en masse. Okay, they were still debating about this. Okay, so so these are the few things which I think caused them to slow down and decline, and in contrast to other nations which were catching up, because the other countries were in the industrial mode, right? It's an industrial revolution, right? So knowledge was a key part in the development of those countries, and the Ottomans were just not catching up in knowledge, and they were declining. Okay, they were too self-assured in their ability to maintain hegemony, to the point that they forget that the most important thing is to continue the research, the R&D, but they didn't. So that is why.
So the ideal outcome, or the ideal path, would have been for them to start industrializing, to start creating the formalized education system, which Europe and the West led the way on, while at the same time maintaining strict adherence to traditional Islamic jurisprudence.
Yes. So in that sense, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, he had the right idea in education, but he did it the wrong way, in the sense that he discarded all the Islamic values, and he totally secularized the country. Okay.
Do you think he was? Do you personally think that he was a heretic or a disbeliever?
To me, he was an apostate. He is a disbeliever, and he, pardon my French, he should burn in hell. Okay. I think he is burning, and I think he's burning in hell. Right.
Okay. What specifically? Okay, I know you said secularized and all of that, but could you give one specific example of a thing that, because as I understand, and of course you're a lot more of an expert on this than me, it's supposed to be a pretty big deal to declare that someone is out of Islam. Like you're not supposed to do that as a light. So what is a specific thing that you would say made him a heretic?
I actually wrote a very, very long article on him, but unfortunately the article is not on. Yeah, I did write an article, criticizing him and basically denouncing him as a heretic, or basically someone who is pretty much out of the fold of Islam. But unfortunately the article is not online at the moment. But what I can tell you is this, okay? What I can recall is that he did many awful things. Okay, he banned Islamic clothing. He forced everyone to wear Western clothing instead. he totally tried to destroy or to diminish the value of Islamic tradition in in Turkish lifestyle. Okay, he forced everyone to basically wear top hats instead of the fez. Okay, I know this may seem minor, but this is actually very important for us as Muslims to And then he pretty much discarded anything Islamically related. He discarded. Okay, he persecuted a lot of Islamic scholars. Some of them well known. Okay, like for example, I think Said Badu Zaman al Nursi, he persecuted him as well. There were many sheikhs, Sufi sheikhs, by the way, whom I don't really agree with Sufism per se, but Ataturk persecuted them. Okay, and yes, and then the Adhan, he turned the Adhan into from Arabic. He forced the muazzin to recite the Azan, to proclaim the Azan in Turkish. He tried to nationalize all these things, but at the expense of Islamic tradition and values. Okay.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that raises an interesting point. So you mentioned the fez and Islamic clothing, right?
Yes, that's part of it.
In what sense was that clothing Islamic? Does it say anything about that kind of clothing in the Quran or the Hadiths?
No, it's not. It's not that. It's just that when you because you see the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he gave he mentioned this in the Hadith. If you try to imitate another people, you are part of that people. Okay, and at the time, as we know, those people who are wearing Western clothing are basically non-Muslims. Okay, so when Ataturk is forcing everyone to wear Western attire, which we know is not Muslim attire, not common Muslim attire, especially not during that time, from an attire which is commonly worn by Muslim. I mean, like for example, the fez is worn throughout the Ottoman Empire. It's not just in Turkey, but it's in almost every nation in the Muslim world at the time. Okay, so when he's purposefully removing all these Islamically inclined traditions, or what he perceived as Islamically connected to something which is Western, he is actually declaring that he wants to remove Islam from the public space, and he wants to move towards a more non-Muslim environment. So this to me is blasphemy, is an aberration. Yeah.
Okay, well, so here's my question. Isn't it a little bit of a contradiction to say, well, it's good to import these Western methods of learning and science and economic organization and production, but it's not good to import these other things because these other things are part of the Islamic culture? I mean, couldn't you say that rejection of formalized universities and a modernized system of government and I don't want to say finance, because that opens up a whole other can of worms. Modernized methods of production, let's say, and manufacturing, isn't that also kind of going against Islamic culture?
I wouldn't say so, because that's pretty much neutral, isn't it? I mean, it's not specific to one particular race or culture. I mean, if let's say
a lot of people would disagree and say, no, that's not neutral at all. I mean, a lot of people nowadays, I mean, there's a lot of in the West, there's a lot of critics of of modernism. And when they are criticizing modernism, they're not just criticizing, feminine. I mean, the most extreme example would be like the Unabomber, right? But even if you set him aside, there's a lot of people who say that that modern, feminism and gays and all of that stuff is kind of an inevitable result of the modernization of an economy. That when you urbanize the population, that makes them start becoming secular. They start losing their ties to tradition. They start behaving in a more non-religious way, whether that's non-Christian or non-Muslim. I think looking at the past of the West and over the past couple hundred years, there is almost a direct correlation between this economic transformation and the rise of formal schooling and secularization. So are you sure that bringing those things in, are you sure you're not putting the cart before the horse, is I guess what I'm saying? That
I think I need to clarify this, because what I mean by modernization is bringing in technology and science into into the Muslim world, for example, and adapting them to our local cultures and mores. It doesn't mean that I'm going to import Western things, negative things from the Western culture and bringing them as well. Okay, like for example, Japan. Okay, Japan is pretty much well developed. Okay, I would say on par with the US maybe, but you don't see feminists or LGBTQ or those kind of things which you find in the West running around in Japan. You see, because Japan as a whole is very much traditionalist, and they are very well advanced. Yes, they are secular, that's true, but they are still traditionalists in a sense, and they behave very much differently from how Westerns, from how Western moderns, Western secularism is, even though they are secular. You know what I mean? I don't know whether you get what I mean. Yeah.
I mean, I guess relative to other westernized countries, Japan is a little bit more conservative, but I mean, there's a lot of gay people in Japan. One of my best friends is a lesbian from Japan.
I'm not saying that
there's a lot
I'm not saying that there are no LGBTQ people in
I didn't
Japan,
mean it that
by the
way.
way. Yeah, but I'm just saying that in terms of public view, you won't find LGBTQ to be as prominent as they would be in a Western society, and Japan is very much advanced. Okay, you cannot deny that.
Yeah, no, I don't deny that Japan is very much advanced. I guess I would maybe gently push back on the idea that Japan is not westernized. I think Japan is very westernized compared to like China.
I think I would say that Japan is westernized in the sense that they have successfully adapted technology and science and certain things.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about culturally.
I
mean culturally. I think Japan is a very culturally westernized country.
I don't see that. Honestly, I don't see that in Japanese society. I think they're still very much traditionalist overall. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those things. That's one of those things where we can't really settle that because we could, bring 3 different experts up here and get 3 different answers.
Sure.
Okay, well, I don't want to take up, your whole show, like I was saying. Did you have any other questions or things that were coming to your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the other people that you mentioned. You mentioned, Daniel. Okay, I think you mentioned
Shabir Ali,
Zakir
Naik, and
what problems? What problems do you have with Zakir Naik, Yasser Qadi, and Shabir Ali? If you don't mind summarizing.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's going to be stuff that we can't come to an agreement on. All of them have said that people should be killed for leaving the religion of Islam in Islamic countries.
That's the only issue you have regarding apostasy?
No, that's not the only issue. I would say that's just the issue that jumps out at me the most. And just general, the blasphemy, that should be.
I think we talked about blasphemy.
We talked about that.
Laws,
yeah, right? I don't want to bring it back. I'm just saying that's an example. And honestly, probably. I mean, as a non-religious person, you can understand why I kind of take that personally, right? I do kind of take it personally if someone says that if someone freely, of their own free will, examines facts and comes to the same conclusion that I do, that they should be killed for that.
Oh, sorry, what were you asking? What you were asking just now? I kind of missed that point.
Yeah. I was saying, surely you can understand why I kind of take that personally when someone says that if a person examines the religion and examines the world and comes to the same conclusion that I did, that for coming to the same conclusion that I have, that person should be killed. And that for saying things that I agree with and that I have freedom to say in my country, that person should be killed. And all 3 of those 3 scholars that I mentioned have said that. And then, of course, there's the offensive jihad thing, which you brought up a minute ago. You don't really support that. I mean, historically, sure, that's one thing, but in the modern world and in the future, you don't advocate offensive jihad, right?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't, because we have the Geneva Conventions, we have the International Court of Justice and all these things. So we have the apparatus in place. We have the United Nations, so we can't just go out and do jihad, right? Our women fancy without reason. Okay, this is not the situation as it was 1,400 years ago. Okay, when there were empires and kingdoms. Okay, So we have already transitioned far beyond that to a system of democracy, and we have to live with that, right? We have to live within that framework.
Right.
See? Yeah. Even though that being said, of course I do advocate for the establishment of the Khilafah. Yeah.
Right. But not one which would carry out offensive jihad, just only with the Muslim world as it exists.
Exactly.
And then if some other country wants to join, well, that would be because they voted to, not because they were forced to. Right. Okay.
Yes.
So, but then, okay, well, do you generally agree that public apostasy should have the death penalty? Not just that it should be against the law, or that, you know, the police can tell you, hey, you're not allowed to do this, but that it should actually have the death penalty.
Yes. Yeah. I think this is a position that every Muslim would take. Yeah.
That's not true. There's well, okay. There's a lot of people who would disagree with that, but you probably also would say that a lot of people who do disagree with that are not Muslims. Like, you know, what Sikh? I don't know if you know anything about UK politics.
Not much.
Here, I would imagine you're probably not a big fan of him. Okay, well, so those are the let's see, offensive jihad, killing, which you don't agree with, killing apostates, and okay, let me see. Okay, this is actually an interesting one, and this is something I kind of wanted to bring up last time that was really interesting. The guy, your brother, that was from Palestine, I think. He actually got into kind of a disagreement the first time I was on here. You remember that? About
I think
the LGBT thing. So
right.
It's not just about, okay, you know, the hudud can only be implemented if there's 4 witnesses, right, to the actual act of gay intercourse. But he said that it should also be punished if men have feminine mannerisms, or if women have unfeminine mannerisms.
If they show it and express it publicly, then yes, they should be dealt with. But if they are doing it within the confines of their homes, then I don't think it's something that the state should interfere. Okay, because in Islam we do respect private. There is something called private space, right? So we do respect that. In Islamic governance, you can't just simply go into people's houses and invade their privacy and ask them what they are doing. Okay, like for example, if I were, as you know that Muslims can't drink alcohol, right? Let's say if I were in my room right now, I'm not showing this publicly to anyone. I'm drinking alcohol in my room. The Muslim state has no right to come into my house and arrest me for drinking in my room, even though I was doing a sinful act in the sight of God. Okay, so it's the same thing with whatever indecency that you mentioned. It's the same thing. Okay. Yeah. So,
but you do think that that's indecency for a man to have feminine mannerisms?
Of course. Yes. I mean that's something you cannot change. Okay. Like just as it is indecent for someone to drink alcohol, a Muslim to drink alcohol, it is the same for someone to dress as an effeminate or to behave like a woman, etc. But in the confines of public space, the government can't touch you, right? Okay.
I'm actually kind of genuinely curious about this. How does the internet play into that? Do you think the internet falls under the category of public space or private space?
If I'm drinking alcohol right now in front of my webcam, wouldn't you think that's public already? There's like 7 people watching the stream right now. 7 people witnessing me drinking alcohol.
I don't consider 7 or 8 people to be public.
Well, it could grow. I mean, in my channel being that popular.
Sorry, I don't mean that as a slight. I'm just saying that.
No, it's okay. I'm just saying. Yeah, I mean, if it's let's say even if it's a private party and but you're airing it live, or you're recording it and you're displaying it and you're sharing it with everyone, that's considered to be a public offense already. Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question actually.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of the current Prince of Saudi Arabia? Because I know I've heard a lot of criticism of him recently.
My opinion of him.
Mm-hmm.
You want the honest opinion?
Well, sure. And you're not going to offend me either way. I mean,
I might get into trouble for saying this. I might even be barred from entering Saudi, right?
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Nah, it's okay. No, it's okay because let's just say this. Let's just put it this way. I think he's doing a lot of damage to Islam. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just leave it at that, all right? Because I don't want to get myself into trouble. Okay.
Well, in that case, instead of bringing him up directly, what's your view on music? And so this is something where I'm quite certain that I've seen some Muslims say that music is not forbidden.
That is an interesting question.
There is real disagreement on that, right?
Yeah, I don't agree with those Muslims who say that music is haram. I mean, I listen to
Oh,
Eminem.
you
I
don't?
listen.
Okay.
I don't. Okay, I listen to Eminem. I listen to Queens. Okay.
Oh, Queen! I love Queen.
Yeah, I love Queen. I listen to. I used to listen to Backstreet Boys. Westlife, all these groups. Okay, so I grew up on those.
Song?
No, right. These days I listen to Eminem. Right.
Eminem. So, I like Eminem too. I like Eminem too.
I like all his songs, and I don't know why, but for the past few days I've been listening to Queen. Okay.
Queen. Right? That's right. I was asking what your favorite Queen song is because I love
the
Queen.
song. Yeah, the song it would be "I Want It All."
Oh
I want it all.
That's a classic.
I want it all. I want it now. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
So for me, it would be One Vision. The One World, One Vision.
No, I haven't come across that song.
One
I'll try to look it up.
Anyway.
Okay.
So
I guess I'm more for the popular ones. The anthem, the anthemic ones like "We Are the Champions." I Want It All, and then there's a maybe Bohemian Rhapsody to a certain extent. Those kind of popular ones.
I love Bohemian Rhapsody too. Anyway, so and the same with visual art. I'm assuming that if you're not if you don't think music is haram, you don't think visual arts are either, right?
Well, no. If it does not involve
anime, for example,
or
any kind of comic books.
I watch anime. I watch Naruto. I watch Bleach. I don't know whether you're familiar with these animes. I watch Bleach. I watch Naruto. I watch Boruto, his son. I watch Death Note. Okay. I watch the Rising of the Shield Hero. All these shows. Yeah. So
are you sure that one is? Oh boy, Rising. I mean, I haven't watched it myself, but I've heard some things about it.
What kind of things? It's pretty
Rising
much
of the Shield Hero. Oh, doesn't it have like a lot of? Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually,
it's pretty much the same, by the way. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
It has some women in it, right? That are very indecently dressed. Is that not a problem?
I think all of the women in the animes are indecently dressed, if you want to put it that way. So yeah, so it's not just limited to Rising. In fact, I would say Rising of Shield Hero is pretty much conservative compared to other ones which I've watched, which are much worse. Okay, there are ones which I wouldn't even dare to mention the anime here because it's pretty dirty.
I
it's very okay, all right, yeah. So but I think Rising of Shield is pretty okay. Yeah.
Okay. So in general, you don't think. So you do think the ones who say that music should be banned and animation and visual art should be banned, they take it a little too far, right?
Yeah, I take it a bit too far, and there are conditions for this. Okay, like for example, when I say that music is not forbidden or haram, I'm saying this in the context if the music is all right. If you look at the lyrics of "I Want It All," where's the indecency in it, for example? Okay, but of course, if there are certain songs like there are songs which of course should be banned, by the way, like death metal music, where they praise Satan, or if they praise murder or genocide. Those kind of songs are of course problematic.
Okay, now I'm not trying to. I'm a big fan of heavy metal, by the way. That's my favorite genre of music. Black Sabbath. Maybe
death. Yeah, maybe like death metal songs. The ones which are much more hardcore. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, any of them are. They have a lot of stuff about that. About. Okay, but what I wanted to bring up, and I'm not trying to get on you or getting you in trouble or anything, but Death Note.
All right.
Doesn't that have pagan gods in it?
Sorry, which one?
Death Note. and,
Yeah,
and
it
have
does.
people
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
like bargains with
Yeah.
pagan gods, basically.
Yeah. It's just I just consider it to be a fantasy story. Nothing theological about it, and yeah, I just view it as something as more of an entertainment. Like it's the same way as how I would view Star Wars. Okay,
Mhm.
I mean there's no magic wizard, waving their light stick around. Okay, with their force pushing objects, But I do watch Star Wars. I'm a fan of Star Wars. Okay,
Yeah, me too.
so it's not it doesn't affect me theologically because I just consider them to be fantasy, nothing more. Yeah.
Okay, well, here was kind of what I was going to get at. Are you familiar at all? Okay, Salman Rushdie. How much do you know about his case?
A lot.
Okay, so if it's okay to watch Death Note, and that's not a big problem because it's just fantasy, why isn't his book just fantasy? Because he never
Because
said that it was about the real Allah or the real Muhammad or
it's
Sahaba.
the book is blasphemy, all right? It's taken out from it's an adaptation from false hadith, which talks about this incident where the prophet was said to have received a revelation, and then Satan interfered and tampered with those words. I mean, the implications are very much clear. Okay, Rushdie clearly was referring to this incident, and he wanted to basically blaspheme the prophet.
Did he ever say so?
I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. Okay, you just read. If you know Islamic history, you know the hadith in question, the false hadith in question. You know the context of what was being said and why Rushdie is saying this. Then you will know that this is actually inclination towards blasphemy. Okay, even
Okay,
though
so
he
it's
doesn't need,
not.
even though he doesn't need to say this literally. I mean, it's already understood. Okay, it's already well understood, right?
So it's the context. It's the context to you
Yes.
that makes
Yes.
one that sets. Okay, well, that's kind of what I was
Yes.
curious about. That sets something that is
Yes.
purely a
Yes.
work of fantasy, like Death Note or most anime,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
they
it's
involve pagan gods.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like for example, Naruto. Do you really believe that there are ninjas running around with their and doing
Magical powers.
hand seals, magical power with their hand seals and unlocking their chakra? I mean, that's for me. That's if it were real, then of course that would be against Islam actually to do hand seals and
Sorcery,
drawing
right.
magic. Yeah, sorcery. But of course we know that this is fantasy, so I mean, it's nothing. To me, it's nothing. Right? It's just an entertainment and nothing more. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Oh, okay. So, a slight change of topic, and I don't want to. I'll probably make this my last question because, again, I don't want to take up your whole show, and it's been going for quite a while.
It's almost 3 hours.
Yeah,
But it's all right. No, it's okay.
So
It's
I
good.
looked a little bit.
I'm really happy to have you here actually because
Well,
you
thank
actually
you.
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I looked a little. I didn't read really deep into it, but I looked a little into that link you sent me about the Islamic finance system in Malaysia.
All right. Okay.
And like I said last time, I think this is actually a big deal, and that this is one of the big culture clash things between the Islamic world and the West is the finance system, because that's what our whole system is based on. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that all of modern Western society is built around finance and interest. That's and I think that's what kind of caused the Industrial Revolution in large part to become sparked. So I guess what I'm curious about. Okay, so that's why I think it's important. But when it comes to Malaysia specifically, at the moment, there's nothing stopping someone living in the country from going to a bank and getting loans that are that involve usury, right?
Yes.
It's so the complying using the Islamic finance thing is voluntary.
It's voluntary. Yes, that's right.
Do you think that do you have a problem with that personally, or do you think that the Islamic finance system should be the only system allowed?
I think we can't do away with the conventional system entirely because as you said, the whole world relies on the conventional system. Okay, but I believe that once the Islamic finance thing picks up itself and becomes much more mainstream, eventually the world will move towards Islamic finance. Okay, and I don't think the process will take a day or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or even 100 years. It will be a very long time, because how long did it take for the the current system that we have to to manifest itself, right? So this will take a long time, and I believe that it should be done through education. And yeah, it's the process is slow, but it's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, that's kind of what I was curious about. Basically, and that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, wow, do you think that there should be a movement to, to ban this and pretty much to to establish a caliphate
I
and
don't think
ban
it
all
should.
of that immediately?
I don't think in the government. I mean, the Malaysian government. I'm speaking for the Malaysian government. By the way, I don't think the Malaysian government can just simply ban this, because if they do, then it will cause a collapse of the system. Right, the whole
Okay.
country will be in chaos, in debt. Okay, so but I believe that the government is moving towards the Islamic system, and this is something that we should encourage, and the Muslim world especially should move towards it. And I
Okay.
think they are. And I think they are. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You pretty much answered my question, that you think
Yeah.
it should be a gradualist thing, and that it should
Yes.
be something that people see the benefits of this wonderful thing called
Yes.
Islamic finance, and they'll want
Yes.
to participate in it.
Yes.
And then it'll be a gradual change. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
fair
right.
enough.
That's right.
And I'm a liberal. I believe in the marketplace of ideas. So I think if that is the case, and everyone finds that system does work better for them, then great. Okay, I actually have one more question, and this is kind of off topic. What's your opinion on the conflict in Ukraine? Because I've noticed that this has actually become kind of a hot spot, where it seems like, I don't know if this is accurate or if it's just an inaccurate view that I get from going on Twitter and Facebook and so on. It seems like in general, a lot of conservative Muslims around the world are really strongly taking Russia's side in this war. Is that just is that something that's only just in certain parts of the world, or do you think that has something to do with the actual substantive elements of Islam and the modern Islamic?
Well, I don't think it really has anything to do with Islam. I think it has more to do with the fear of American influence, and maybe there are some Muslims who actually harbor suspicions and maybe sometimes even hate towards America. Okay, with all due respect to you, because I'm also an American myself, technically speaking, right? So because of what America has done, okay, because America has invaded Iraq, Afghanistan, okay, caused a lot of problems with regards to the power vacuum that you mentioned, leading to the rise of ISIS, etc., the bombing of Syria, etc. So all this comes into play, and because of this, the Muslim world as a whole don't really like the United States, okay, your government especially. And because of this, they believe that since Russia is somewhat of a counterweight against the United States, so when the Russia, I don't. By the way, this doesn't mean that I agree with Russia, right?
Sure.
So when Russia invaded Ukraine, some Muslims, okay, maybe a large number of Muslims, I don't know. I'm not one of them anyway. They of course they celebrated, because they believe that this pretty much dents the ego of the United States and the NATO powers, okay, because Russia is going against what NATO wants for themselves, right, which is to bring the Ukraine into their organization, and Russia doesn't like this, and therefore Russia invades the Ukraine, right? And so I think those Muslims who side with Russia, they think that this is somehow somehow something of a spat against the United States, against Western powers, okay? So they believe that Russia is a victim, okay? So they think that Russia has the right to invade or whatever for their own, for Russia's security, and because of this, so they side with Russia, okay? So that being said, that doesn't mean I support the Russian invasion, okay?
Sure.
Okay, because I believe my position is that both sides are bad, okay, are equally bad, okay? Both sides are equally bad in the sense that that Russia doesn't like the idea of the Ukraine coming into the NATO organization, and yet you are forcing, or you are trying to you're trying to entice the Ukraine to enter NATO anyways, and basically the reason for this is because you want to have a foothold in the region and spy on Russia. Okay, this is obvious. This is the reason. This is the obvious reason why you want Russia to, you want Ukraine to enter NATO. At the same time, I believe Russia has done a lot of bad things as well, because
That's what I
don't
was
forget
going
in
to bring up.
2016,
Syria
in
is
2000,
what comes
yes,
to my
in
mind.
2000. So I think in 2016 they invaded the what was the Crimea Peninsula, right? They annexed the region. Okay, and they actually chased out a lot of Muslims. Okay, a lot of Crimean. There are actually a lot of
Tatars,
Crimean,
right.
Tatars. Yes, Crimean Tatars, native Crimeans who are Muslims, and they had to leave their land and move to the mainland, to Ukraine, to the Ukrainian mainland. So because of that, I have my sympathies for Ukraine as well. Okay, so I don't take sides in this situation, because I think both sides are equally at fault. Okay.
Yeah, and you're not. I think I'm not assuming too much if I ask you're not a fan of China either, right? In general, Xi Jinping.
To be honest, I actually favor a Chinese hegemony over certain parts of the region, because I think China would be a great counterbalance to the United States, and I think it will threaten. It will actually put the US on their toes. Okay, because I think because the USSR was dismantled many decades ago. The US has grown pretty much, if you don't mind me saying this, a bit too big-headed. Okay, so they think that they have become the sheriff of the world, and they started to do unilateral things, which we have seen for the past few decades. I mean, you earlier on you expressed your hatred for George W. Bush, right? Yeah, I share the same sentiment as well. Okay, so because of this, because the reason why George W. Bush did what he did was because there was no counterbalance to him. So I believe that China could be a great counterbalance to this. Okay, that doesn't mean I agree with China, by the way. All right.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Not that you want to live in. Not that you're not saying you want to live there. Just that if it's between them having hegemony in the region or the U.S., China would be. You would rather have them be more of a counterbalance, because you think the U.S. generally has a lot. Is more pushy, is more bullying, et cetera, et cetera.
As more belligerent, if you don't mean using that word, it's more.
No, I wouldn't dispute that. So. I may not necessarily think that it's always a terrible thing, but I think one thing that we've seen over the last 20 years is that the U.S. and England, to a lesser extent, there are a lot of really high level people in them who are kind of fanatics in a way. And I think a lot of people think that, well, it's just, okay, this is a thing where I think a lot of people don't understand it about the U.S., even a lot of people who live here. They think, they just want money. They just want to make profits. They just want to, go into Iraq so they could take the oil or whatever. But I don't think that it really is that. I think it's honestly a very sincere, very moralistic, ideological belief that the principles of freedom and democracy and liberalism need to be spread around the world. And I think that, Biden, some people actually complain about this. They say, well, there's the Republican Party and the Democratic Party in the United States, but they're both in favor of this hegemony. They're both in favor of this, spreading liberal values and spreading the American system around the world, however it takes. And I don't necessarily agree that that's a bad thing, but is it true? Yeah, absolutely. You would have to be dishonest to say that it's not true. So,
okay.
Fair enough.
Okay.
And honestly, we can talk some more another time, but this,
of course.
It does worry me. It does worry me that there's going to be kind of a World War III, that we're kind of moving towards World War III. And I don't think it's going to be like nuking each other. I think it's going to be economic, but an economic World War III will still be pretty bad.
Yeah, we might be seeing that very soon, because of the US-China dispute right now. It's pretty much intense, right? So it might happen sooner than we think, right?
Yeah. It's really intense. Well, I guess I will. It's getting pretty late for me here.
All right, understood. I guess It's around 3:24 a.m. your time, I think.
We had daylight savings, so it's about 2:20 a.m.
Oh, 2:20.
I usually, I mean, I
Alright.
usually don't go to bed before this time because my work shift
Alright.
doesn't start until like noon.
Okay.
So
Alright.
I'm used
Okay.
to staying up this late, but you've been going for about 3 hours, so I'll let you go. I just wanted to
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah, I
again
might
for
I might
having me.
end the stream soon. All right. Okay. Thank you for coming on to the show. And if I do, probably I'm not sure whether I'll do it next week because it's Ramadan. But let's see. All right. Yeah. If it's here, it will be here. All right. Yeah.
All right. Thanks again.
Okay.
Have a
Alright.
good night. Or good.
Same to you.
What time is it? It's afternoon, actually, in your part of the world. Right?
3:25 p.m. Malaysian time.
Right.
Yes. Right.
All right.
Okay.
Well, have a good afternoon then.
Have a good day to you. Right. Good night to you. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So thank you very much everyone for joining the live stream, I guess. Wow, that was very intense with Hunter. Hunter, if you're listening to this, thank you very much for joining. I do appreciate your coming onto the live stream. Okay, it was a very civil and honest discussion, very frank from both sides, I guess. I don't have to necessarily agree with everything that you say, but as Voltaire would say, I don't necessarily agree with what you say, but I will defend your right to say it. So in that sense, I would actually agree with Voltaire. Okay, and there are many things which I don't agree with Voltaire. All right. So yeah, wow, 9 viewers right now, mashallah. All right, it's pretty much it's getting very late for me, and I haven't done my zuhur prayer. So I think I will need to leave you guys soon because I will need to perform my zuhur prayers. Okay. I actually thought that I just wanted to do this for about 2 hours, but it has become 3 hours. And yeah, brother John Patterson earlier on, thank you very much for joining the live stream. I think he left a comment here. I love Islam, and my love towards his life would be there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger. Thank you, brother, for that beautiful statement, comment. And inshallah, we will talk soon, all right, through email, all right, hopefully. And yeah, I think brother Freddy asked me a fake question. Okay, Muslim Employer, how about songs having bad words? Yeah, as I mentioned in the live stream, I consider those songs, of course, to be haram. Okay, yeah, but it depends, all right. It depends on the context. I mean, if it's not overtly offensive, like, I mean, okay, Eminem has some bad words, all right. I have to admit this, but it doesn't affect me theologically. It doesn't, it's entertainment, it's pure entertainment, and you have to see what the context of what he says it, right? So in that sense, you can just filter out in your mind. Actually, you don't even have to, if you listen to songs long enough, you could actually filter out the bad words in your head. So for me, it doesn't really affect me much, and to me, yeah, it depends. I think this is more of an individual choice. If you feel uncomfortable with listening to songs which have very nasty words, like the F word, the B word, okay, the N word, then maybe you should stay away from those songs, all right? But if you think that those songs they're not theologically inclined and has nothing whatsoever to do with your iman or with your faith, then I don't think it should be a problem, okay? But of course, songs which clearly encourages death or destruction or worship to Satan, like the death metal songs, the very very black metal or death metal type of songs. I don't know whether they are still a thing these days because this is like 20 years ago. But if they are, and if you come across this type of songs, then obviously those songs are haram. Okay, at least to me, right? But generally speaking, music is not haram. Okay, because otherwise, it actually I find it ironic that there are some Muslims who actually say that music is haram because if music is haram, then what about this nasheed? Okay. Tola'al badru alaina min saniyatil wada' wajaba syukuru alaina madanillahi da'. So by singing this song, these two lines of nasheed, okay, which is by the way about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, all right? Did I just commit a haram act? Did I just say something which is utterly haram? Okay. I mean, and by saying that this song is haram, doesn't that mean that I'm actually insulting the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam because this song is talking about the Prophet? You see, Do you realize the implications of saying that all songs is haram unequivocally without consideration for the context? Okay. Do you realize that, by saying that music is haram, and you disregard these traditionalist songs, these Islamic songs which calls people to Islam, you actually denying an avenue towards which people can actually listen and appreciate, and their hearts may actually be softened, and these people will actually consider Islam as their deen, as their way of life. You see. So this is my question that I want to ask those people who claim that music is haram in Islam. I mean, without conditions, that is. Okay. Because of course, when I say music is not haram, it doesn't mean that it doesn't come without conditions. I'm not saying that all music is allowed. Okay. I'm not saying that all music are acceptable. Okay. I'm just saying that music in general is not haram. It's not forbidden. But there are conditions, okay, which would make it acceptable. And there are things which can cause a certain music or a certain song to be haram. Okay, this is what I'm saying. Okay. So yeah. So this is my position, right? So as I mentioned before in my previous live streams, I'm not a sheikh, I'm not a scholar. I'm just your brother in Islam who has happened to read a lot of books here about faith, about Islamic knowledge, inshallah. And if you feel that my opinion is not correct, you can always refer to your sheikh or please find a reputable sheikh or scholar and ask them for their feedback. All right. But I can tell you this is my position. Okay. Okay, brother Freddy Ruler. But the thing is, most nasheeds are vocal only and not instrumental. Well, there are instrumental nasheeds, by the way. I'm going to play one. All right. Okay, give me a moment. I'm going to show you one example of an instru. Okay, this is about the Prophet too. Okay, about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Okay, and it's musical. It's not vocals only. Okay, let me see. Ya Hanana. Can't play this music too much, otherwise it would be considered I think it would the copyright will be the copyright for music will be affected, right? So I'm just going to play this one example. Okay, I don't know where this guy is singing. Okay, let me see now. I think he's singing with music. I'm not sure, probably no music, I don't know, but there should be some music in this song. All right. Okay, no, this brother is not singing with music. Okay, there is a Malaysian version where there's music. All right, let me find if I can find it. Okay, let me see if I can find it. Right. Okay, I found one. I found a song which is similar. It's the same song which has music. All right. Okay. Birunuin Nabi Ahmad Bizuhurin Nabi Ahmad Yahan Dalikal Fadlu Minallah. Oh, wow. Okay, let's stop there, all right, before I go into the song. Okay. Yeah, so tell me, is that music haram just now that I played? Okay, it was praising the Prophet. Okay, it was saying that he has come unto us. Basically, the translation is that he has come unto us a prophet from the Banu Quraysh by the name of Ahmad. And then Yahanana. Yahanana here means in this context, it means how lucky we are, how fortunate we are to have Ahmad among us. Okay, so tell me something to those Muslims who think that song is to those who think that music is haram in general. Is that song haram? Is that song blasphemous? Is that song against Islam? Is that song going to deviate you from Islam? Okay, so yeah. So like I said, I don't ascribe to this silly idea that all music should be banned. Okay, because there are music which brings you to Islam. Okay, like the example that I just gave. Okay, I might even get a copyright copyright strike or something. Okay, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, so this is the reason why I say that music is not haram. Okay, there are conditions for accepting it. Of course, I'm not saying that all music should be acceptable. I mean, I'm not that stupid either. Okay, I know there are music which are blah 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 blah, blah that makes you go crazy and makes you do drugs and makes you I don't want to say this during Ramadan, right? Doing all kind of nasty acts with other women, that kind of thing. You know what I mean, right? You know what I mean. So I know that there are music which does this to you. It can affect your mind and cause you to do nasty things. So of course those music is haram, okay, but not all music are haram. Okay, that's my position, and I think it's something that some Muslims who come onto my channel, when they listen to my intro, for example, they don't get it. Okay, when they see my statement, music is not haram, they start to question me and they start to question my iman. They start to interrogate me as though as I'm a kafir. Okay, so I take offense at this because I think we should use our mind, our brains instead of our emotions when it comes to faith. Okay, but like I said, I'm not a scholar. Okay, I'm not a faith scholar. I mean, I'm not someone who's trained in religious studies. I'm just someone who happens to read a lot, and Alhamdulillah, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I don't think I would say something which goes against Islam. Okay, I would never think of doing something that goes against Islam if it's clearly forbidden in Islam. Okay, so yeah, that's my point of view. I hope I mean, take it as you will. Okay, if you want to accept it or not, this is up to you. Okay, but that's my position, inshallah. At the end of the day, we are still Muslim brothers. Yes, of course, yeah. But there are some Muslims who or those who claim to be Muslim who just drive me nuts. Aki, I'm sorry. It just pisses me off when I see people coming on here and say music is haram, and then they don't quantify the reasons for saying this. I mean, if you want to say something is haram, you must justify it. Like, just as you say, oh, this is halal. Why is it halal? You need to tell me why it's halal. Why is it acceptable? Like, for example, I don't know. There's so many examples you can think of, I guess. Okay, so yeah. So okay. So yeah, I'm supposed to end the stream now, right? I'm sorry, but I have to end the stream now anyway. I really wish I could continue the stream up to 4 hours and so, but I need to do my Zuhur prayers as I mentioned, and I'm running late as it is. Thank you very much for joining my live stream. And Alhamdulillah, there was a lot of people who are watching this. 7 people right now. Okay, thank you very much for watching live stream. Of course, this particular live stream is part of the Q&A series, so it will not be behind a paywall. Okay, it will be left here. Okay, anyone can just watch it. You don't have to download it. Okay, the other perpetrator the troll who tried to steal my material, he or she has already been dealt with. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Last night I was mentioning about this attempt by this troll to steal my video and spread it across the interwebs. Okay, I managed to I did a I did a DMCA takedown notice at Mega NZ because that guy that moron tried to upload it there. And Alhamdulillah, this morning I checked the link and it was dead. So I guess Mega NZ has obeyed my takedown request and they have fulfilled it. Okay, so I guess if that person tries to do this again, I will just do DMCA takedowns wherever he goes. Okay, wherever he or she goes. Okay, I think the idiot is too idiotic to consider other third-party platforms. There are so many third-party platforms which he could have uploaded that video. Okay, I'm not going to give him any ideas. All right. Anyway, thank you very much for joining this live stream. I hope that he has been educational for you, and I thank you very much that you have decided to come onto the live stream. I mean, for those who have gone into the live stream, that is. And if you would like to become a paid member, please do join my membership. There are 3 tiers. The lowest tier is about $1, $1 USD. Okay, I hope that you would consider becoming a paid member. It will help me greatly in supporting this channel and helping our cause of Islam in apologetics. Okay, so to keep things into perspective, I'm not a da'i, I'm an apologist. There's a difference, right? And please do share my video to those who you think would benefit greatly from this video. Please do yeah, please like this video if you like this video. If you don't like this video, don't do anything, please. Okay, if you want to dislike it, it's up to you anyway, but it won't affect me in the least. It won't affect my work. I will still continue my work. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, if there are any trolls watching this, I can tell you that you have failed to stop the Muslim apologist. And with that, thank you very much for joining this live stream. I hope to see you next week. Inshallah, I'll see if I will be doing the live stream next week. Okay, my throat is pretty much dry as it is. I mean, this is Ramadan. Okay, usually I will be taking sweets of canned drink. This empty, by the way. This was last night. So I would be actually drinking loads of this usually, but because this is Ramadan, so I can't do this, and my throat is pretty much parched. Okay, but I guess this comes with the job. But anyway, thank you very much for coming on to the live stream or watching this or listen to me babbling all the way for 3 hours and 28 minutes now. And I hope to see you again next week. I'll see if I can do it next week, but no promises. All right, if this live Q&A notification doesn't appear on your screens next week, it means that I've decided to postpone it until the end of Ramadan. Okay, but I'll see what I think I should be doing it anyway. So anyway, I hope to see you next week or perhaps next month after Ramadan. Let's see which way it goes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.